That's not what those people are doing. They're like that, and like you should look into that. It's like, why is there no gratitude there? Why is it only critiquing of the way that they can't? They if they already have access to the files, why do they want it in one zip? What's the point of that?
I think a
You
lot
have
of
to
people just
open
want
if
to.
you have to open the zip. If you have to open the zip and uncompress everything anyway, you have everything and it's all separated anyway.
I think a lot of people just want in on having saying they have everything and they can download it all at once and say, "Well, I have it all." You know, there's a bunch of people in your live the other day that were like, "Can you send me this? Can you send me
I
that?"
know, but they don't understand that if it is set up, structured that way, that it's easier to corrupt. And that's why
No,
you're not able to
100%.
access the books on Joe's website. They keep changing it. So now it's like the books go to like all the archives of like archive.org. We're trying to find you original books scanned, like the real book, so you can see the pages like you're reading out of a book. Like we were doing with the psychic magnetism book.
Yeah, I'm very excited to read that. I managed to grab that a couple days
We were
ago.
reading it last night. Were you here?
I wasn't.
We were reading out of it last night. I should honestly go through and read some of it now. I'll start over for those who weren't here. I'll start over with the introduction of that $9,000 book, and you'll see why it's $9,000. Um, it is very hard to decode and understand, but those who understand will be able to interpret it, and that's why they wrote it that way. Everything is in run-on sentences, and like you have to decode the run-on sentences, and you'll see what I'm talking about. So now let me open. Here we go. Boom. Flip. Ancient magnetism and psychic forces, the keys of power. Professor L.H. Anderson. He was highly, according to Brendan, this is who Jewish professors sought, their inspiration from. So we'll start with this. The introduction it's pretty long, but it's very descriptive, and it's hard to understand sometimes. That's why I go through and stop. So if you see me go through and stop and explain, it's because I want people to understand, and you're going to get different interpretations from this book. Of the nature and character of a work like the following, nothing need be said. It is enough that at a moment when the public mind occupies itself with the class of subjects on which it treats, the researches of an earnest and indefatigable student cannot be unimportant, even though the reader may not always arrive at the same conclusion that he has done. Thus it appears to me that that we cannot deny the extraordinary physical. I'm so sorry. I'm trying to show you. I can't do this at the same time on my phone. So 1 second. Thus, it appears to me that while we cannot deny the extraordinary psychological phenomena which are familiar to the experience of every human being, they are yet capable of certain explanation wherever we are enabled to arrive at the circumstances which render the mind receptive of such impressions. The susceptibility either of individuals or bodies of people to the influences seem to presuppose an abnormal condition. So it's saying in the first part, of nature and character of a work like the following, nothing be said, meaning that, as I've been saying multiple times in live, what's understood does not need to be explained because of the universal language of mathematics. So different readers will look at this book from a very different view or points of view. By some, it will be esteemed only as a curiosity. Others will find matter for further research. One will wish to learn magic arts from it, and another will draw from it philosophical conclusions, and will find, I believe, if not instruction, at least amusement and ample food for reflection. For it treats a remarkable phenomena and uncommon effects which have certainly been hitherto looked upon as mere phantoms, or as belonging as a sphere quite unconnected with nature, but which nevertheless are a portion of history, and surely on that account are of universal interest. Magnetism, by its remarkable phenomena in modern times, has led us into a sphere which, still like a closed book, contains secrets of a higher order of things lying beyond the familiar everyday history of nature. Before the discovery of magnetism, it was believed that science had already exhausted the world and that the human mind had noted down on the map of natural inner life everything that could or could not exist in heaven and earth. Magnetism itself stood in the background. It was looked upon as something that is nothing and cannot exist, such as obsolete, dusty charts are still often found hanging over the desk. Zealous champions who is not in knightly manner fight boldly against deceit, destruction for the beautiful prepared possession. Now, however, magnetism, not content with its manifold wonders, leads the way back into the mysterious domain of exploded magic, gathers up old tales and long forgotten laws of mysterious action from a transcendental world, which estimated on one hand that represent standard of science's values, and on the other, orthodox dogmas as the work of the devil. Whilst the former thus fears to be led back into the gloom of the mystical twilight of the past by such attempts as are described in this book, where only the phantasms of faith and miracles play their wild game, and latter resist boldly in the anxious fear lest all miracles should cease to be miracles. The contents of this book are without reference to the above-mentioned contradictory motives, chiefly occupied with those mesmeric appearances which were formerly called magic, now magnetic. In the present state of opinion, therefore, it cannot, of course, aspire to universal approbation. It may, however, if it does not interest, at least not be generally displeasing, as the author seeks everywhere with complete impartiality only the historical traces of true facts and the phenomenon connected with them, compares these and endeavors lead them back to certain laws of nature, which in truth may be considered as something more than mere polluted pools or decayed pillars. If some which are discussed do not always bear the impress of infallible truth, or even if some principles on which they are based be not the firmest, still it cannot be easily said that they are invented, or that it is all a deception. Even if they were really true, of which indeed we have many proofs, we may here and there find occasion to give them more consideration and to test the utility of their application, in order, perhaps, to succeed in discovering constant forces, even in the midst of more frequent actions, and clearing away many difficulties which general science does not solve, and opening a wider field of operations for human activity, so that it may attain at least the exalted end of spiritual destiny. The author for the last 18 years, which this was written in 1895, so the author for the last 18 years has moved on the still uncultivated field of the wonderful phenomenon of magnetism, and after having once ascertained its reality and been convinced of the striking effects voluntarily produced by it, he believes it his duty, in accordance with the saying, that a grain of experience is of more value in medicine than a book full of reasoning, to preserve with a certain self-sacrifice and constancy of which not all are capable. He considered all his first necessary tasks to be the making of experiments for the discovery of a fixed law for these phenomena. As it soon appeared that such regularity really existed, the next thing required was to search in history for those similar mysterious phenomena which show a greater or less relation to those of magnetism. Problem solving. General accordance is now found everywhere and at all times, and thus common laws may now be assumed for all those wonderful phenomena and problems. This justifies the axiom that all such remarkable phenomena as are in accordance with magnetism are in general true. The author feels now with a certain joy, with none can repress, that he has at last done his duty, perhaps thrown some light into the obscurity, and thus given the most necessary hints for proceeding with a cautious, firm step, and offering a helpful hand to human weakness. We make no pretense to being considered as an infallible teacher of science and philosophy, which is saying he's not better than you. He's not knows more than you. He's telling you he acts as a tool. That I was saying, you act as a tool and you share it. We make no pretense in being considered as an infallible teacher of science. He's saying, don't follow me in death because I'm teaching you this. I'm telling you this so you know it for yourself. As Christ said, because it references Christ all through this book. This is just the introduction, but the author, his words, all he talks about is the Bible and what it relates to now, and like it goes through in so much detail. He addresses his revealments in the intuition and reason of the human soul. Hence, whatever he communicates to mankind must live upon its own intrinsic merits, upon its own indwelling vitality, and not because he has spoken or written it. Saying that since he's shared the message, it has to live on its own merit, not because it has vitality and because of just through spoken or written words. It has to be understood. The author is impressed to devote his life and interior powers to the promotion of human progression, happiness, and spiritual illumination. To obtain means and principles adequate to the accomplishment of these ends, he is impressed to search as far as his abilities will permit the natural, spiritual, and celestial departments of God's universal temple, and to reveal, suggest the proper application of such general truths as man's physical and spiritual organization requires in his rudimental state of existence. So it's your spirit that is hosted on the back-end server, your 3D physical manifestation, and God's elements that he has created in the celestial bodies, so yeah, you have to. It's all works in tandem. So this book tells you how to do that. And we're just reading the introduction. The introduction is when someone reads the book and they get the introduction of what the book is about, and that's why they're giving a different perspective. And it says the author explains da 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 da. And so after we get to the introduction, we'll go through the chapter 1. One of the important parts of this book is that wherein the author seeks to make plain the momentous part that magnetism plays in social life and the wonderful power for good or ill that may follow from a knowledge of oneself and the development of this power within them, or on the other hand, remaining in ignorance of that which is of such vital import in every phase of life and the rightful heritage of each one. How many unhappy homes could be made bright, joyful, and strength-giving? How many lonely, desolate hearts might be brought up into a serene hopefulness and happiness, into a confident sense of power, which would lead them to a realization of all they can desire, into that perfect satisfaction in all that life affords, which is man's true growth and destiny. So little in reality stands in the way of one's accomplishing that which they desire. So little in reality changes the life current from that which has brought one into any undesirable condition, so that they, in which certainly and according to fixed laws, will lead one to peace, happiness, and health, strength, and prosperity. So it's saying that basically, if you learn what you learn here, you could have a desolate heart, you could be brought into sorrow and all these things, but through these things you can bring yourself out through peace, happiness, health, strength, and prosperity. That is a sin for anyone who cannot avail themselves of this knowledge. So it's saying it is a sin for this knowledge to exist and for you not to avail yourself of it and apply it to yourself, and the power which it gives and understanding of which can be no more than hinted at in a work of this size. The author wishes also to indicate the close relationship of the existing between the miracles and magic of ancient and medieval times with the hypnotic and psychic phenomena of the present day, and its momentous and vital relation of the everyday affairs of life in the home and society and the business world. The reader will not find industry and a certain circumspection wanting. By patient devotion, much has been done, as much at least as one individual has been able to accomplish. An ample library was necessary for the completion of the work, together with years of research and the aid of friends, and without the rich treasures of the public library of this place, like what we're doing now, the public, we're getting a library. It is even written in this book. I'll read it again. An ample library was necessary, a small library was necessary for the completion of the work, together with years of research, aid of friends, and without the rich treasures of the public library of this place, like what we're talking about finding, like the hidden secrets, and the gratefully acknowledged readiness of its superintendents, it could never have appeared in this extended form. So it's saying this book would never exist if the work was never done. Our library won't exist if the work is never done. Joe Felz' mission will not live on if the work isn't done. Joe Felz isn't here. If Joe Felz was still here, if that scenario didn't happen, he would probably still be searching for more books and how to give them to you. So I'm pretty sure through all of us, we can continue that. And this book is telling us, and I will read it one more time. An ample library. An ample library was necessary for the completion of the work, together with years of research and aid of friends, and without the rich treasures of the public library of this place and the gratefully acknowledged readiness of its superintendents, the friends, it could never have appeared in this extended form. And this is what the introduction is. This is what someone wrote for the introduction as they wrote this book. They understood that this work would never have happened if people didn't put in the work. So we need to put in the work to continue and do this. So that, anyway. Better recognize. That's funny. Y'all are funny. I love my sassy people. I love that the sassiness found me, and that they're sassy. You know, everybody's welcome, but the sassy people, you can be sassy. That's fine. Until I have been acknowledged that sass in a light-hearted form is wrong, then you know what? Be sassy, but until we find out it's wrong, then don't be sassy. We'll figure this out. That's what this book is supposed to tell us, and other things. But it also teaches you what magic is and how it works, and how the first chapter is just, it's going to blow your mind. That's why this book is $9,000. The vision of science penetrated many fields of physical. Oh wait, use listo. Listo, you can. Okay. No. You do spray. You like spray. Mas? Okay. Gracias, mi amor. Okay. The vision of science. The vision of science penetrated many fields of physical knowledge before it could lift the veil. Sorry, let me read it in a way that it could be understood. The vision of science penetrated many fields of physical knowledge before it could lift the veil of the soul and survey the secret mechanism of mind and life. The vision of science. The vision of science. What is the building blocks to all science? Pop quiz. What is the building blocks to all science? Put your answers in the chat. So the vision of science penetrated many fields of physical knowledge before it could lift the veil of the soul and survey the secret mechanism of mind and reflection. Exactly. See, as mama passes. This is the building blocks to all science. Let's try to pin it. Oh wait, it won't let me because it's okay. But yeah. So math is the building blocks to all science. Without science, could it be here? Yeah, here alone, and because of this, it says the vision of science, the vision of for understanding math, it penetrated many fields of physical knowledge before it could lift the veil of the soul and survey the secret mechanism of the mind. So it penetrated many fields of physical knowledge before it could actually lift us. Yet here alone, it found the laws of universal happiness. Like the math itself found the laws to be perfect. And like for universal happiness is to be, yet here alone, it found the science, the math found the laws of universal happiness. Here, we're the subtle forces which have moved man through the long procession of historic ages. And here with the mighty causes which must undermine the future course and destiny of nations. The radiant paths of wisdom from every ancient modern field of study all center in this temple of life. Man is himself of the noblest subject of study, as well as the most worthy of all students of nature. They solve all the great problems with concern and present happiness and future destiny of man. And they bring all this within range of such scientific proof as can be understood alike by all persons. So they take the universal language of what math is, and they've created a language of 1, 2, 3, and they made the numbers and the symbols and alphanumerics, and they taught it to people. And they bring all this within range of such scientific proof as can be understood alike by all persons. That's what they mean. They're plugging in all the language to people who could understand them. All through the historic ages and among all civilized nations, we may find fragments of the truth which are united under the light of these laws into one clear system of life. The science of man opens the gate of paradise. That is what Jesus Christ told you. The temple is within you and around you, not through somebody else. He didn't say it was through him. He was telling you, my Father came here to tell me to send you a message. Here it is. The power of the temple is within you. You can react. God is within you and all around you. You can access him through you, not through anything else. You don't need anything else. The science of man opens the gate of paradise. That's what it says right here in this book. It can alone make us read or write the lessons of past experience. It can alone interpret the magnificent visions of our future destiny. That's what you call seeing into the future. But it's actually just understanding code and understanding mathematics and knowing how to use it, work backwards to know what you don't know. That is all. That's what that is. If as long as you know math, you can do anything. As long as you can understand the math problems that you need to fix. So it can alone interpret the magnificent visions of our future destiny. Science here lifts us from the feebleness of faith to the high power of certain knowledge. It allies itself with religion. It gives eyes to faith and wings to art. It embodies and immortalizes all that is precious of the past inspirations and attainments. The most direct power of the truth stated in this book is found in the fact that they are precisely and clearly explain the phenomena of our inner and outer life. We have spoken largely of things occult and have given a few rules for the information of the wise. Some few most secret things being preserved by the author for his pupils only. That is what we're doing with free Bible access. There's some things that people just, you got what Joe Felz promised, and we're still going to offer more, and we're working on pioneering that information, but there's a reason for it, and this book tells you. I'll read again. We have spoken largely of things occult and have given few rules of the information of the wise. Few rules of the information of the wise. So it gives you limited access to information. It gives you very unrestricted access to information. So few rules for the information of the wise, some few most secret things, the things that we're looking for now that we just don't know, Some few most secret things being preserved by the author for his pupils only. There's going to be things that the internet doesn't know about that we can search for and we can make available. And once the right person reads it, we can understand why it's not made available. And then we can make it public if it can be made public. Because there's certain information. What if there's something you give fucking, Bibi Netanyahu the power to freaking, telepathy, boom. You know what I'm saying? That's why there's certain people that can't have information. So we can't just release everything, but we can tell you this. This was already promised to you. We can't hold it from you. You get this. We gave it to you. We made sure you can find it. This book forms a complete magical biography being collected from most ancient authors and worthily used for the knowledge he attains from his labors. Therefore, my good friend that desires to accomplish these things, be persuaded first, to apply thyself to understanding, then seeking knowledge with diligence, and thou shalt never regret having taken so good a resolution, but will only enjoy a secret happiness and sincerity of mind which the world can never rob you of. Wishing you ever success imaginable in your studies and experiences, hoping that you will use the benefits that you receive to the honor of our Creator, God, and to the profit of your neighbor, to give this. So yeah, it's telling us to the profit of your neighbor, to receive this information, to honor the Creator, and to profit your neighbor, to share it with your neighbor, so enrich them with this information. Remember our instructions to be silent. Talk only with those worthy of communication. Do not give pearls to swine. Be friendly with all, but not familiar with all. For many are, as sincerely yours, L.H. Anderson. That's the introduction. $9,000. This book is right here in my bio. You can have it for yourself. You don't need me to read it to you, but if you need help understanding what needs to be explained, I can help you explain what they were trying to mention, but you're going to get your own perception of what it is, because we all have different personality types. There's 4 ways you can take this book and it explains it. I'll go back over it. 1 second. Because it is meant to be this way. If an artist needs to give you a message, they will write an entire book to get one sentence out to you, just to hide it so it doesn't get, lost. Um, Different readers will look at this book from very different viewpoints. By some, it will be esteemed only as a curiosity. Others will find matter for further research. One will wish to learn magic arts from it, and another will draw from it philosophical conclusions. Just conclusions, no more further research. You just draw conclusions. So there's 4 ways you can take this book. I've taken the second. I'm in for further research. How about you guys? What are you guys in for? What are you here for? Are you here for to learn? Okay, so let's go over it again. Some are only here because they're curious. Others will find matter for more research. One will wish to learn magic arts from it, and another will draw from it philosophical conclusions.
Hey, side note, Brendan's in the chat, and if he's willing to get in the box, he's a wealth of knowledge too.
Yeah. Um, yeah, absolutely. Yeah, so Brendan, you can request up at any time. You're a mod, but wait, are you a mod still, or did you?
It was great listening to him the other day. He had some great points to be
Oh
made.
yeah, absolutely. What did you
Talking
want
about
him
the
to
book
talk
of
about?
magnetism.
Oh yeah, absolutely. So right now we're just reading out of the book because this is the one of how it's perfectly explained, and so I can't explain it this well. Brendan can't explain it this well. So when we read it out of the text, and then we understand it, and then we can reiterate it in an easier way that it's understandable for those if they need it done that way. But there are 17 chapters of this book, and chapter 1 is phenomena of magnetism. Chapter 2 is it tells you everything. Like, I mean, if you really want to get into it, magic, black and white. Chapter 3, dreams, visions, and the true magic. Chapter 4, secrets of the Egyptian magic. Chapter 5, hypnotism and the law of attraction. 6, hypnotism and the key to occultism. Chapter 7, modern spiritualism. Chapter 8, power of the human will. Chapter 9, magnetic soul force. Chapter 10, magnetized persons not responsible. And chapter 11, how mind strengthens body. Power of the mind, that's how mind strengthens body is that one. Chapter 12, the origin of force. Chapter 13, the magnetic force. 14, magnetism, the medium of mental inspiration. 15, different kinds of magnetism. 16, laws governing magnetism, and which that's a very important one in itself. Like that is that's like the most, like you have to understand what is possible and what isn't. So chapter 16, the element of life, and that's the chapters. So phenomena of magnetism are acknowledged to be great importance to anthropology, natural philosophy, and even to moral philosophy. They are becoming so to history, and even as the reader will perceive, partly so in the mystical olden time. By far, the great part of mankind lives on in imagination, not only the less instructed natural men of feeling, but even those who boast of knowledge and a higher mental cultivation. You can't say that you're smarter than other people. You just have to acknowledge that you just learned something that someone else didn't, and you need to enrich them, as it said in the introduction, with the knowledge. You need to profit your neighbor. You give, to the creator, you give the gratitude to the creator, and you enrich your neighbor with it. How few in their feelings and sufferings and their doings and aspirings raise themselves in the sea of life above the world of imagination. And the literary hero of romance among the scenes of the stage, there is no more original thought than in the persevering churchgoer. It's saying that if you are being led by somebody else, there's no original thought. The great mass wishes to be devout and thinks that the glorification of God's name lies in miracles rather than natural action. The temple is within you. Dignity, riches, and power are only too much the springs of even great and eminent minds. Thus, mysterious feelings always lead man like the dreamer and somnambulist through the world, rather than the clear consciousness of open daylight. And as the dreamer is only struck by the momentary liveliness of the appearance, undisturbed by its causes or effects, so mankind knows no more of the dreams of the first period of its childhood. But now, magnetism gives us information about the existence and action of life, of dreams, and the power of creation, and in general, about the sports and whims of fancy. It is also best means of breaking the seal, which closes the mysteries of antiquity, rich and fancy, whilst it discloses the similarity and depth of the man's capacity, and shows in accordance a phenomena which formerly in magic was attributed to enchantment and to deceit, or to those supernatural wonders for which an external religion and an inherited faith found not in their catechism. And fine magnetism is able to give the meaning of the symbolic enigmas of ancient mysteries which were considered quite insoluble, or which appeared matter for the most varied explanations. In the same manner, the manifold declarations of ecstatic seers and mystic philosophers which are treasured upon the persons initiated into the mysteries will now become more intelligible by means of magnetism. So this tells you nobody's smarter than you. Everybody is able to raise their intelligence. You can become more intelligible by means of magnetism. The reader who is inclined may convince himself of this if he will follow the author on the field of magic, whilst he collects and compares the testimony and monuments of all ages. If he was not succeeded in exhausting everything and completely clearing away all darkness, bridges and windows will appear to lead as to new views, which time and then constantly increasing dexterity of magnetism will enlighten more and more, and thus, after a real search, according to the command of Olympiodorus, which shall at last attain to a knowledge of heavenly things. Men are astonished at the unusual appearances of signs, which they do not comprehend. I'll read that again. Men are astonished at the unusual appearances of signs which they do not comprehend, like hieroglyphics when we discover those, or any ancient texts that are just they're astonished by them. But does such astonishment always imply a real miracle? Most men have the miracle in their minds and worship it because it is enveloped in a sacred obscurity. They only admire nature because they are of the opinion that she is an inexplicable enchantment, whilst they set a small value on what they consider intelligible. On the other hand, there are even philosophers who admit of no miracle and who pass their lives in believing nothing, not even believing what they see, especially if they do not understand it. The most wonderful point about this is that their own brain is not a miracle to them. It's just normal. And in nature as well as in the mind, regular phenomena occur, which are looked upon as wonders only on account of their rarity and because it is not known how they come about. The best thing that can be said of miracles is the answer given by Christ to Nicodemus. I think I said it right correctly. It's the first time. Sorry. That which is born of the flesh is flesh, and that which is born of the spirit is spirit. The wind bloweth where it listeth, and thou hearest the sound thereof, but canst not tell whence it cometh, nor whither it goeth. It is certainly very difficult always to decide what are natural and what are directly divine operations. And thus one can understand that most persons unacquainted with the laws of nature call everything a miracle, which they cannot measure by their own standard. On the other hand, miracles often consist of reports, magnified by lies, and propagated by superstition. Thus it happens that even by the more educated, certain uncommon phenomena are ignored or even denied. The intensity and vastness of the human mind are not fathomed by the most faithful observations of physiologists, and psychological wonders are still frequently enough ascribed to the gods. I'll read that again. The intensity and vastness of the human mind are not fathomed by the most faithful observations of physiologists, and these psychological wonders are so frequently enough ascribed to the gods. Those two words together in the same sentence, it's just difficult to read. The mind of man is simple in its character, like the spirit of God and of nature, but manifold are its powers in action. The unusually developed powers of the mind do not certainly admit of being so exactly defined in their source and tendency as in this case with the elementary powers of nature with magnetism and electricity, yet the strength of the mind is on that account no less certain, as it is proved by the power of the word, when one can neither weigh nor measure it. Now there are diversities of gifts, but the same Spirit, and there are diversities of operations, but the same God, which worketh all in all. So God is the admin to this reality. I need to charge my phone so people say. Papito, necesito de cord, the power cord. ¿De blanco? Es aquí. Mi necesito. All right. Okay. Sorry, you guys. I'm so sorry for the pause. That's awesome. Perfect. No one wants to, if you don't want to hear this information, you wouldn't be. Okay. I start from personal observation, wander about on the vital and productive field. Sorry, let me check and make sure it's charging. Yes, it is. Okay. I start from personal observation, wander about on all the vital and productive field of nature, seek everywhere the analogies in relation to phenomena and the laws which govern them, descend then as well as far as I can into the deepest, darkest pits of history, can place them in rows side by side for inspection in order to make prominent the character of the harmony or contrast according to its principle. He's connecting computer like coding languages that like numbers exist in all forms. He says, I start from personal observation. You have a code in your personality. I'm an ENTP. I'm intuitive, but you can also recode your personality. That's why they call it personality disorders. But you can recode your personality. It's also called code switching. But you need to change the intuitive. Sometimes you need to stop like connecting, and sometimes you need to observe. And that's what this person is saying. I start from personal observation, wander about on the vital and productive field of nature, seek everywhere the analogies and relations of phenomena and the laws which govern them. Descend then as well as far as I can into the deepest and darkest pits of history, like we're trying to dig up these books right now as you read when my message pops up. Place them in rows side by side for inspection in order to make prominent the character of the harmony and contrast according to the principle. That's a scientific method. You share, as he says, he places them in rows side by side for inspection. That's the scientific method. You share your findings for other people that's how science works, to verify it. The most active principle, however, of these magic phenomena I have found mostly an anthropological ground where nature and the action of fancy produce the wonders which transport the supernaturalist completely into the transcendental and supernatural. But the rationalist absolutely denies. If he does not understand them, if you rationalize with yourself, if you try to rationalize with your eyes, you're not going to understand magnetism. The phenomena which are included under the name of magnetism present so many points of interest that they have of late years attracted universal attention. Not only are learned men engaged in endeavoring to understand all that is problematic in them, according to their comprehensiveness and worth, and to find proper point of view from which they are to be regarded, but even the popular mind is attracted towards them in the expectation of deriving either instruction or amusement from their mysteries. Sorry, I'm having like a epiphany while I'm reading this, and like I just realized that's why they displayed magnetisms as magnets that show up on a freezer. But if you were to look at a magnet that you stick to a refrigerator, it doesn't stick forever. It doesn't magnetize forever. It's energized. Once it loses energy, the magnet falls. So there's no force there anymore. Magnetism possesses properties. I just said that. Energies. Magnetism possesses properties which are not only practically useful as regards health and the relations of life, but also in respect to the highest interests of mankind. We have in the foregoing pages briefly looked at magnetism and the relations of other phenomena of life, and as connected with sciences and throughout its historical career, so that sound deductions may be drawn. The reader who has accompanied us thus far will have been placed at a point of view where hence we may discover that many wonderful stories can be explained and connected most naturally with well-known facts. He will have been enabled to form an unfettered judgment regarding circumstances which superstition has defied, skepticism rejected as folly, or blind belief accepted as miracles. So it's explaining it perfectly. Lastly, having compared together historical facts, it is possible that he may have discovered traces of a more extended universe than that of the senses or of worldly experience, and that in human nature lies the germs of powers which are occasionally met with its earthly home. The germs of powers are occasionally met with its earthly home, but which so far have never been perfectly developed except in one man. His name is Jesus Christ. It just says it right here. I didn't make that up. And the man so far have at this right here, but which so far have never been perfectly developed except in the man Jesus Christ. So your prophets, your other religions, Jesus said 700 years before any other religion started, that if anyone else comes and says they're a prophet, they're lying to you. He said those words. By animal magnetism, we understand those peculiar, and you have to understand, all religions acknowledge the existence of Jesus Christ. By animal magnetism, we understand those peculiar physical and psychological phenomena which are produced in other principally for the cure of diseases by a conscious mechanical influence. The mutual impression produced by living beings upon each other is merely a modified universal law of mutation, a law of mutual impression, which has been designated natural magnetism. For this reason, Mesmer, its discoverer, called this artificial manner of producing it by analogous reasoning magnetism. By these means, we discover in animal magnetism a new medical science, or the art of healing and prevention of disease, not through a substance but by a power, a movement which, like sound in the air, light in the ether, appears to be endowed with a surpassing mobility. It is called animal magnetism because the animal part of the man is the medium. Our physical body, we're animals. The animal part of man is the medium, the conducting body of this penetrating magnetism, and is more particularly active in that particular which distinguishes our animal senses and the higher faculties of man. Magnetism has also been called life magnetism on account of its universal influence on human beings, and mesmerism from its discoverer, which is perhaps the best designation for his new curative system founded on his theories. Kluge and others called it animal magnetism in contradiction to universal vegetable and mineral magnetism. The word magnetism in itself says too little, and it is too indefinite. Universal magnetism says too much, and Taylorism is merely an individual idea adopted by Kaiser. Just as the properties of the magnet may be certain processes be called into action in iron and steel, like I was saying, just as the properties of the magnet may by certain processes be called into action in iron and steel and be so strengthened that they are able to present in true magnet, so I have discovered the means of strengthening the actual magnetism of any individual being to such a degree that phenomena are produced which are analogous to those of the magnet. So the government knows how to do this, because how do they make magnets? Because they lose their energy and they fall off the refrigerator. How do they charge them? Just as natural heat may be raised by certain processes, so like the sun, so far that fire is the consequence. So is natural magnetism a description of invisible fire, which by a continued series of movements is enabled to impart itself in an immeasurable degree. It is enabled to impart itself in an immeasurable degree to other animate or inanimate bodies, and this fire, in relation to its application as a curative agent, holy fire, is that which I call animal or personal magnetism, because which, as will be seen, may become an immediate remedy, may strengthen activity of the muscular fiber and regulate the function. So it's not a burning flame, it's a holy flame. The functions depending on it, and by such means infuse harmony in the internal parts and members of the human body. When it's talking about purification of fire, they're not talking about burning yourself. It's not a flame that burns, not in that light. If you look up in the Bible about holy fire, it's not a flame that burns. If you look in the book of Enoch, the seraphim and the one that starts with the O, the ones that with the eyes, with the wheels, they have burning fire. They're described by Enoch to have burning fire, but described by Enoch to have fire surrounded by them, but it's not burning them. It's holy fire is what he describes it as. And so when they're having you burn and your loved ones and make them ash, you should never get cremated. You're natural. You should be put in the ground. You shouldn't just be turned to dust and thrown in the water, in the air, like whatever. I mean, they just destroyed your entire physical manifestation. The mesmeric influence of, so how you're going to come back here, I guess. That's how it makes sense to me when we're learning about this. The mesmeric influence of magnetism for curative purposes is either directed upon the whole body or upon individual portions alone. For this purpose, man is provided by nature with a remarkable and perfectly adapted conductor, the hand. The magnetic influence by the hands extends even to the animals, the plants, which thereby acquire a peculiar state, and even inorganic substances may be influenced by magnetism. And that in certain, so that's why these are inorganic substances. You're trying to move organic substances. Okay, that makes sense. And even inorganic substances may be influenced by magnetism, so there must be another law of how it must work on a different law. And that in certain circumstances, they may be used as conductors. The act of magnetizing the magnetic process takes place either by personal contact, or like when you're touching something, you can manipulate it with the hands by personal contact, or by the means of conductors. Personal magnetic influence operates through the proximity of the operator to the patient, through the hands, by the eyes, and by the words and other natural means. Magnetizing by the hands is the most unusual method for the hands and the true organs of the will. They are the instrument of which they will is palpably exhibited. The hands give the direction of activity to the will, and is the body. So even if something's like, if you're trying to do something and something is distracting you, you can, as long as you're doing everything you need to do, as long as your hands maintain the actual activity of the will, and as the body is the visible material reflection of the soul, so are the hands the physiognomic expression of the activity of the will and the character. Magnetizing by the hands and gazing upon the patient is usually very powerful when it is done continuously and with intention. Animals cannot support the glance of the human eye. That's why they look away. And it is not a rare for a sick person to fall asleep by merely looked at, particularly if accustomed to the magnetic treatment. Words are the direct embodiment of the ideas of the soul and are used to act even physically to excite, restrain, or invigorate, or lead. My cat looks away. She doesn't ever try to test me. She always looks away. Even all my animals, yeah. Horses, yeah. Dogs. Yeah, a domesticated animal isn't natural. A domesticated animal isn't the same as like you could put them outside, your cat's not going to survive. Not the same as like it's it's gonna have so many error codes because of like being domesticated. Same thing with the dog or like whatever. You can't take them out of the natural world and put them back after you've made them inorganic and gave them inorganic food, and now they have to find organic food, and it's not, they don't know what that is because they've been fed dog food, and like that's just like a bird. You can't just have a bird in a cage and then you release it into the wild. It's gonna die. Happily, okay, so, oh, here we go. Okay. These phenomena designedly produced by magnetism, which however arise naturally in many diseases and may also be produced by other means and influences, are most easily classed as physical and physiological. Those which are most frequently are physical crises and less frequently psychological conditions. The former are not unusual in all magnetic patients. Among the psychological phenomena may be classified the waking up of the inner consciousness, which extraordinary activity of the outer senses, as for instance that dreamlike middle state between sleep and waking called somnambulism, or the more rare and still higher state of the soul, which is known as the power of the seer, clairvoyance, ecstasy, etc. Happily, prejudices of all kinds are giving way before the power of knowledge and enlightenment, and magnetism has no longer to strive against the spirit of the age. The physician who will not introduce magnetism into his own individual practice yet no longer denies its reality. It is no longer an interdicted word in the writing of the philosopher and the psychologist. While many a theologian has taken up the subject zealously, now he can recognize some zealousy. Now he can recognize something beyond miracles and sorcery in it. As the learned, the people who were brought up in society, that were in schools, that learned through schools and like public schools, that were taught, they were indoctrinated. As the learned, if they are not altogether advocates of it, neither are they altogether opposed to it. Besides, the time is past when they were considered the infallible judges of all unknown mysteries and higher truths. The advancing spirit of the age, and in a special manner the attention which is paid to the earnest study of natural philosophy, has given a new importance to the subject of magnetism. The veil which formerly enwrapped so many mysteries and enigmas is falling off by degrees by means of the irresistible and rapid discoveries of physics and chemistry, or organology and anthropology. This truer and more intimate knowledge of all the natural sciences has produced one of these general reforms in which the schools and the sects now sound private views, fancies, and prejudices are now dispersed as shadows of night before the ascending daylight of truth. So now in our schools and everything, they give us fancies and prejudices are dispersed as shadows of night before the ascending daylight of actual truth. Magnetism is thus brought under the protection of science and general intelligence, of which it will become an active and useful agent. Magnetism is no new principle. It is an organic development of the powers inherent in man. No fresh human characteristic is revealed by it, for all organic development of the present time has its origin in the past, from whence it has successively sprung. Thus, magnetism is, according to its nature, as old as humanity, but it is different with the doctrine regarding magnetism. This may be new, since the facts scattered throughout the course of history must be collected and must be composed with those by the present day, us, and a theory formed out of which a rational system of application may be obtained. This is what Joe is trying to tell you. He's trying to share you this book so you would find information. You would find that you would go search for information. It is no reason that they became the history of magnetism as yet vibrates between contradictory opinions between fact and appearance, that we should not seek out its physiological root from amidst the physical and psychological facts which everywhere around. As concerns the historical facts of magnetism, people are now at all events convinced that of that which occurs to the individual is common to the whole race, and that those kindred phenomena have never failed in any rage or a nation. Magnetism is therefore a historical fact. Now we're on to chapter 2, magic, black and white. People want to come up, so let me give a second to let you guys come up and share whatever you want to say. Maverick, do you have anything you want to say?
No, I just think listening to it, I haven't had a chance to start reading it yet, but it's incredible how much people discount the human mind. And there was, that fallacy that we only use 10% of our brain power, which has since been disproved. But that being said, there's still so
I'm
much
gonna
that
follow
has
you,
been
Raiden.
undiscovered, and there's so much that hasn't been discovered or discussed or proved or disproved.
How do I find Raiden? Raiden, can you type in a comment so I can just tap your profile? It won't let me tap your profile when you send those. Oh, thank you. I know, but you don't have to send more. I'm trying to. There it goes. Oh, okay. Follow. You ain't even. Oh, it won't even let me follow you. You're private. That's okay. I'm sure it's for a good reason. So I'm sorry, Maverick. Say what you were saying. I'm so sorry to interrupt you.
Oh, no worries, hon. I just, like I said, it's it's an incredible text to, the old understanding of the people used to say that we only use 10% of our brain power, and that has since been disproved, but there is so much that is misunderstood or not yet discovered or studied about the human brain, and that we are not separate from source, and that, whatever you do believe in the universe, you are not separate from that source, and the magnetism and the power of the human experience is really more incredible than people dare to even look into or think about.
Yep. That's why when God said, like, it even has a picture at the end of chapter 1. Look at this. Let there be light. The book has pictures and everything. Like, it has really crazy pictures in it. So there's a book, there's a genie lamp on top, there's a flame on the end of the lamp, and there's a person touching the lamp. What did it say the hands were? Pop quiz. What did it say the hands were? Starts with a C. A conductor. So what was the Ark of the Covenant? It was a capacitor. Before we ever discovered electricity, Jesus built a capacitor. If you look at the Ark of the Covenant, it had two cherubim on top of it. Those were the electricity. Those were the. So I'm not like, I don't know like the words. But I just know how it works. I know. So there's like the 2 points where the electricity, like the metal needles. You needed those. So there's that. It's a conductor laid over a non-conductor. It's gold laid over acacia wood laid over gold. That if you look in the book of Exodus, the first or chapters 20 through 25 tell you the God gave Moses the build out for the Ark of the Covenant and gave him the instructions, the blueprint of how to build it, and it gives you all the instructions. It gives you, so a cubit was this was a cubit back then. This is what is measured as a cubit, is from your to your elbow to your hand. That's a cubit. So the Ark of the Covenant. So God told Moses, so this is how God housed himself here on earth. He told I'm so sorry. He told Moses he needed 3 things to put into the Ark of the Covenant. It needed to be a ritual. God works on rituals, magnetism. You have to align forces. You have to do things for things to happen. The power of the temple is within you and around you. So and it's telling you this book wouldn't have happened without people doing the work. And people will think that things are miracles. Like when you do great things, you just think that it's divine miracles because you don't actually understand magnetism and how magnetism works. So once you understand magnetism, you know that it's just actually confined within the laws of this world that we're able to do these things without actual divine intervention. And so we're actually doing great things on our own here. We're capable of doing great things. So Moses, what he did, he followed God's instruction. He went to the cave. God presented himself as blue fire. and spoke to Moses in the cave, to gave him the instruction, and he goes, or he spoke to God in multiple forms, in multiple ways. So God gave him the instruction to build the Ark of the Covenant. He builds the Ark of the Covenant, and the way what he has to put three things inside of it: the tablet of the Ten Commandments, the original tablet of the Ten Commandments, the staff of Aaron, and there's one other thing. I can't remember the other thing, but you needed all three of those things inside of it, close it, and then boom, there's the power of God, and nobody can actually touch it. If you touch it, you perish. So it tells us, so it was fast. So the Ark of the Covenant, how they used it, it was meant to be used as a weapon. How God was always with his people. So they needed to they needed to house God, so God could be with his people. So they built it, and they couldn't touch it. So how they were able to move it, there were links on it where they fastened poles to it. So there were priests that were the holy priests that were only in charge of touching it, were the ones that could hold it by the poles. However, there was one time they were going up a mountain with it, and they had it on a cart. And they were wheeling up a mountain, and one of the wheels broke on the cart. And as it broke, the ark went to fall, and one of the priests touched it and immediately struck by lightning and died. And so then when people would, when armies would come at God's people, when they would come try to take it, the box would open up and unleash unimaginable power and wipe out all of its enemies. That's what the Ark of the Covenant was. And then it vanished. It was in the Temple of Solomon, in the Holy of Holies, in Israel, or whatever, Palestine. It was housed there. Of course, there's war trying to get to it, and now it's vanished. Its physical manifestation vanished. And if we look at Revelation, it tells us how the end of times is brought is when the enemy touches the Ark of the Covenant. All the devil has to do is have his his manifestation manifest in a person. The person has to touch it, and that's what ends. That's how he breaks into heaven, and all. So that's when the birthing pains happen. That's when Jesus comes back, and that's when that's the start of the apocalypse. Is through the Ark of the Covenant, and when it is found. And so that's why this is so important. And so it's telling you your hands are conductors. They're talking about electricity before, like in the Bible, the Ark of the Covenant was a capacitor. If you look at how we built modern day capacitors, it's a conductor laid over a non-conductor over another conductor. That's what gold is. Gold is a conductor. Wood is a non-conductor. So acacia wood actually has DMT in it, which is the molecule that allows you to see other things. What you respond, Maverick? Say something. Just be like, say something, even if it's just like,
Sorry,
something.
I'm following the chat right now. You got a troll in your chat, and I'm fighting it out over there.
Yeah, no, don't let them know, because that's the thing. If you pay attention to the negativity, they bring your vibes down. That don't you
100%.
know? Like, we're feeling good, and then when you pay attention to it, it makes you feel bad. Don't even pay attention to it. It's
It
okay.
just makes me roll my eyes because it's like the people come in and they don't. Whether you believe in God, whether you believe in the Bible and all of the stories that are contained within it, there's still a message underlying in so much of the outer message that interconnects everything else.
Don't
And
feed
that's
the
the
trolls,
problem, is
man.
that you don't connect the dots from one to the other, whether you believe in God or you believe in source or you believe in whatever you believe in, it's all interconnected and it all came from somewhere.
You have to understand, this is what Jesus dealt with. He's trying to tell you, and there was always this backlash, even when he proved it in front of them. The devil, this, that. You know what I'm saying?
100%.
Yeah. So, but that's the thing. There was only one person that was able to actually do these things correctly. They were trying to tell us about it. And the people that were sent, the disciples, were trying to tell us. And the people said, no, we're just going to write gospels explaining it differently. They didn't write the books. They were telling us.
History is important regardless, Penny. And that's what it comes down to, is that it's like I said, it's whether you believe it or not, from the
They
Jesus
separated
perspective, from the
history.
God perspective, it is all history, and it's all
It's history.
humankind, and it's all humanity, and it's like you can't it is a miracle that as human forms we are all here.
Religion
As
is
life
cult.
forces, we are
Religion is
all
cult
forms.
because Jesus wasn't telling you to be religious. He wasn't telling you to be Christian or anything. He was telling you the powers within you. Don't follow anybody else. The powers within you. Watch me do this.
Absolutely. You are not separate from source. You are the source. There is no separation. There is only separation if you believe and
And
if you
of
follow
course,
what you're
he's one
told.
man, and all these people were asking him, "Can you do this? Can you do this? Can you do this?" And he's like, "Okay," and he would, and he's like, "I told you how to do it. Here, I'll show you again. Okay, you want me to go here? I'll show all you people. I'll show you people. But can you do this? Can you just do this? Can you do it one more time?" And then he left he like went away. He went to the mountain. He went by himself because he just got overwhelmed because people weren't listening. He's like, "You can do this yourself. The temple's within you. That's why it's in the Bible."
Well, people get, I think, hung up on the tangible and prove it, prove it. Let me see it. I want to see it. But you can't see love. You can't see hope. You
You
can't
can't see
see, you
magnetism.
can
You can't see
feel it though,
magnets. You
but
can
you
see a
can feel it.
magnet. You can see a magnet. You can hold the magnet next to the fridge and you can feel it pulling, but you can't see
Right.
what pulling it.
100%. And there's all these things that are not tangible in life that we believe in. We believe in hope. We believe in love. We believe
And
in,
this is how you know you can magnetize yourself because magnets work backwards with what you know. This is an example. We know magnets fall off the fridge. That means their energy at one point they had it and they lost it. So that means at some point it gained energy. So it wasn't eternal. So it started at some point and it's so small. So the energy is small. So it's like it was charged. How was it charged?
everything is energy.
No, they know. Who made the magnets knows. They know. There's still more information.
Oh,
How do
100%.
you magnetize something?
It
And I'm
has to
sure
be
that's not
charged.
hidden information, but it's probably not easily accessed
No, it has to be charged by but what processes and what
because we know it
avenues.
loses charge, so it has to
Right.
gain charge. So you work backwards with what you don't know. That's why you don't need proof. That's how you know. As long
Hmm.
as you know, it doesn't need to be explained.
But I think that's the biggest thing people are hung up on is that they have too many questions and they don't listen enough and they don't discover enough. They don't learn enough about themselves and what's around them and what they can truly do. I like that. It's like your breath. You can't see it, but you know it's there.
Right. And it's made of many different things. It's oxygen, carbon dioxide, helium, nitrogen. It's multiple things, many things, and you can't even see it. Only 20% of this atmosphere, maybe even a little bit less than 20%, is actually oxygen. What we're breathing in right now, we're not. It's like as long as you have a little bit, you'll stay alive. You have to have a little bit in every breath. You don't. It doesn't have to be pure oxygen. You just need oxygen to feed your cells.
In the entire theory of magnetism, think about your heart, an electromagnetic field that continues. You could try to do things to get your heart to stop, but that muscle will continue to pump on its own. We
Right.
don't think about it. We don't tell it to do it. You may try to stop it. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't, and that muscle will
You want to
continue
know
to do
how
its
I
own thing.
know? Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you, but I
No,
just
you're
had another
fine.
thing. I had another epiphany about how this book is set up, and I can tell why the author set it up this way. Chapter 2, there's a bunch of chapters, right? Why is it going to tell you the introduction? Get to chapter 1 and tell you about um, phenomena of magnetism, and then go from magnetism right into telling you in the chapter 2 is magic black and white. Because he tells you in the introduction. It tells you there's going to be 4 different types of perspective, or 4 people who are taking this book in, and there's 4 different types of perspectives to take from this book that people are going to take, and it's going to be different readers will look at this book from very different viewpoints. By some, it will be esteemed only as a curiosity. Others will find matter for further research. That's me. One will wish to learn magic arts from it, and another will draw a philosophical conclusion. This book tells you in the next part that you're not supposed to have magic. You're not supposed to learn it. You're not supposed to use it. It's still, there's parts of magic. Astrology is okay. There's certain magic that you can use, but there's certain magic that you can't. There's still, but you can still access it. Like, that's why you're not supposed to. However, it tells you there's 4 people that are going to be looking for this book. And so the people who want the information, you're not going to get the real information if you just read it. If you're looking for the third part, if you're looking to actually do magic, because right away, it doesn't even give you everything about it. And it tells you right in chapter 2, it gives you white and black. It jumps right into white and black. So those who are trying to like learn it, they're not going to get the real information of everything in the book. They're just going to learn what they're going to try to know and not everything. So they strategically wrote this book. They strategically wrote this book. So Magic Black and White, chapter 2, this is in parentheses, man may become by the instance and cooperation of spiritual power, man may become by the assistance of cooperation and spiritual powers and the capacities of higher divine origin, your intelligence, capable of higher sphere of activity, which is your vibration within, as well as without himself, which is the vibrations around you, which gives him dominion over his own and over surrounding nature, end parentheses. In this sense, Pythagoras and his disciples were at later period considered as teachers of good and wise magic. The lower, or if you know who Pythagoras is, he came up with the Pythagorean theorem with triangles, which if triangles, is like the strongest shape known to man. It's like one of the strongest the strongest shapes known to man. The lower or black magic, however, originated in the early times, and man, becoming conscious of his unusual powers and without knowing their boundaries, was easily inclined to ascribe them to foreign and supernatural influences, to demons, and according to his nature, he would use them for good or evil purposes, either deceived by himself or as a magician deceiving others. That magic, descended by tradition from the early ages, is shown everywhere by the primitive records of the human race. It is so intimately connected with the nature of man that we can only feel surprised that the people who learn from school should doubt it. The people who learn from schools. So it says the learned. He likes to say the learned because he's using code here. The learned is what he's using to say people who learn from schools and institutions, that the learned should doubt it. I'll read it again. It is so intimately connected with the nature of man that we can only feel surprised that the learned should doubt it and think it is requisite to ascribe everything to myths, as if tradition had no firmer or deeper foundation, and that it didn't just come from somewhere else. They think that tradition doesn't mean anything. So although we do not associate with magic the gypsy art of reading the hand, the science of making gold, or discovering the philosopher's stone, yet it compromises much more than which the reason of sensible person might allow to pass unquestioned or reject as pure nonsense and absurdity. And this is that wonderful power of material means. This natural power of man is, however, not frequently met with, and is not of that kind which every mind is able to appreciate according to its value and power. The knowledge of such rare phenomena and their causes could therefore in remote times only be known to the highest of sages and rulers, who preserve it among their secret learning. I'll read this slowly again. The knowledge of, because this is what I was talking about. Knowledge was only preserved for the highest. Their sages, their magicians, because only they could know it, because that was their self-defense. That was their defense. So the knowledge of such rare phenomena and their causes could therefore in remote times, like during times of crisis, and they had to be in remote locations, only be known to the highest sages and rulers, who preserve it among their secret learning and transmitted it to their children under that cloak of religion, which all secrets were covered. So religion was used to cover all these secrets. So they used religion to deceive the public, and they kept the secrets for their children, hoping that their children would understand and would lead in the correct ways. And the black art, man does not remain a passive instrument of evil spirit, but is an active and working agent. We find that many practice sorcery and succeed, while others do the same and fail. So that to do those things, one must be naturally inclined, a witch, a wizard, right? As everyone, that's what they've been classified by the public before, for people to persecute them. As everyone has not the same magnetic powers, and not all magnetic subjects present the same phenomena. We all have our unique abilities, allegedly. That's why astrology is so important. That's why being where you were born is so important. That's why eating food out of the ground from where you were born is so important. When therefore man directs his strivings towards the divine, he is in the degree to which he does not egotistically but looks unswervingly towards the heavenly, filled by divine grace with supernatural power. An insufficient disposition for higher impressions may, however, be remedied by the divine pleasure, for we often see that God calls those to him who are straying from him and endows them with extraordinary powers. The aspiration of woman is towards the pure and noble. She attracts herself to man, who is ever seeking that peculiar nature with which she is a woman and is endowed. And this she does not in order to retain him in a lower sphere, but to ascend him into a higher one. And if on one hand woman is encircling power to a man, on the other hand she is by side through the labyrinths of life, and by her gentleness and patience and love and softening and restraining in his fiery impatience of character. In this sense, woman is called the crown of man. However, speaking from my own personal perseverance, I have femininity in me, so that is what helps calm my storm. That is what helps me. I tapped into my feminine nature. I embrace my masculinity, but I also know how to be soft. I know how to coddle. I know how to, talk in a way that I can reach others, so in a way that it's not so demanding and instructive. So there is that possibility, and I hope this book will actually go into that. It's because the power is within you, not through someone else. Yes, a woman can ascend you, yes, if you can't ascend yourself. But I, in my own perseverance, believe you can ascend yourself if there just isn't a woman that has presented herself to raise you. Sometimes that might happen in this world because it is just very weird right now. We'll put it that way. High as is the destiny of woman, yet she has a closer affinity to the night side of nature than man, and especially so they're not to be looked over by any means. They are just as equal, like as in yin and yang. Yet she has a closer affinity to the night side of nature of man, where the man is of the day, she is of the night, and is especially exposed to temptation. She's exposed to temptation, deceit, curiosity, indiscretion, and the desire to enslave man by her charms and to see the creations of her imagination realized are the shadow-like and inclined her to the study and practice of occult knowledge. Night, sleep, and dreams affect woman more than man, and therefore the power of the seer is a commoner occurrence with her than man. It's more common to see women with the power of seeing than it is for a man. Soothsaying, telling the future, widely differs from the black magic. And although it cannot be denied that natural magic borders upon the world of night, since through worship of nature, it more and more removes man from the worship of the divinity. The worship of nature among... Why did that open? The nature... the worship of nature among the heathens. The worship of nature among the heathens, so long as it does not become dark and satanic, being simply a materialized worship of the supreme, does not prevent relations reaching them from a higher world. So if you do find like a supreme, someone who's leading you or whatever, that is not preventing you, as long as they're not so the worship of nature among the heathens, so as long as it does not become dark and satanic, as long as it's not dark and Satan fulfilled, being simply materialized worship of the supreme does not prevent relations reaching them from a higher world. The Kabbalah teaches that the heathens receive revelations and true dreams. It even maintains that in general, that heathens are capable of receiving the Holy Spirit as the Christians. It is even maintains that in general, the heathens are as capable of receiving the Holy Spirit as the Christians. There is a course, uncleanness there is a course, uncleanness, which is an abomination before God, and yet subtler, on which causes a dimness in the soul. The nearer man approaches sacred things, the more lively becomes his sensibility to this dimness, as in myself and my sexuality. And as may be seen in the instance of the prophets, with external things, it is also the same. The more closely man assimilates himself to them, the more susceptible he becomes for the tuma. Those organic things which come most into contact with his frame and more liable to become unclean than objects which are more remote and have less affinity with him. The human corpse, according to this law, is far more unclean than dead bodies of beasts. Man being the most highly organized creature, in his decay, the most vaulting decay takes place. The latter Talmudists therefore decay that a far higher degree of uncleanliness exists in the corpses of holy men than in corpses of than in the corpses of the unholy. So that's why I'm assuming the body of true saints do not rot, because their rotting body represents something more unholy than the corpses of the unholy. So if a saint were to rot, that is even more unholy. Something is wrong there. That is more unholy to the divinity. But throughout the universe, especially in this our world, where nature has become full of dissonances and all creation sighs beneath the curse of Adam's sin, man returning in penitence, God together with the guardian angels is ever ready to aid him in the contest with sin. So God is always ready with his guardian angels to contest sin with you. They're always ready. Man returning in penitence. If you return to God in penitence, God together with the guardian of the angels is ever ready to aid him in the contest with sin. So we're protected. So don't ever feel scared by comments and the things that they're trying to scare you with. You are safe. I'm safe. I have a feeling of peace. I'm fine. And in the same degree that the man desires goodness, does he attract God's influence, and the darkness is changed into light and severity into mercy. Idolatry, murder, and immorality are the three chief divisions of moral uncleanness. Idolatry, worshiping someone else. Murder, immorality, doing things that are just not right, are the three chief divisions of moral uncleanness. These unnatural unions, which are spoken of in the Old Testament, are to be regarded as belonging to the species of uncleanness. Seething the kid in its mother's milk, the yoking together the ox and the ass, the planting near to each other of trees and adverse natures. The Kabbalah observes, with reference to the forbidden marriages between near of kin, that in such unions in a natural evolution takes place, the branches being as it were bent backwards, the root instead of spreading widely from the tree. Speaking of the contagious power of evil, the Kabbalah says, as physical disease spreads forth from men, so does the uncleanness of soul ever magically stream forth, possessing a power of contamination, not alone for men, but for external things. From this proceeding, the repulsion felt by the pure in the presence of the wicked, a repulsion the more keenly experienced, the higher is the purity. Each evil deed, each impure word is thus possessed of a magical existence which renders unclean all around it. So those people that are saying things in the comments, it's even saying it right here as we're talking about it. It's the demons reveal themselves when you do this. From this proceeding, the repulsion felt by the pure in the presence of the wicked, a repulsion the more keenly experienced, the higher is the purity. So if you don't feel repulsed, the higher is your purity. Each evil deed, each impure word is thus possessed of magical existence, which renders unclean all around it. That's why I was saying it brings the vibes down when they try to get in the comments and upset you. Equally strong with the laws against Tuma and the laws against magic, according to the Bible, the Talmud and the Kabbalah magic is divided into three classes. The first, as an abomination to be punished, like idolatry, with death. The second with scourging, and for the third, no punishment is ordained, but it is pronounced wrong as leading from reliance upon God. The first class includes all evil enchantments and magical cures, the citation of evil spirits, and the calling forth the dead through the aid of demons. The invoker of the dead is alone condemned to death. The questioner of the dead is scourging, and according to Moses, it is simply forbidden to practice magic. That's why if someone were to revive somebody through what God had taught them, they would call that necromancy, and they said they would put them to death because they thought they invoked the dead. According to Moses, it is simply forbidden to practice magic, not to be acquainted with the art or to study it, since the members of Sanhedrin must have been acquainted with magic before being able to pass judgment upon it. The second class includes that magic which is produced through the agency of the lower and evil spirits of nature, which by means man is often led astray. The third class, although not strictly forbidden, is nevertheless pronounced unfit for the pious Israelites, and this is astrology. This is the one that there is no strict, damnation for. According to the Talmud and Kabbalah, the stars have as a great influence upon man as upon the whole of nature, for the constellations presiding at the birth of a child determine its physical and mental qualities. Intercourse with the so-called spirits of nature belongs also to this class. And these spirits were all designated Shkidim, a name also born by evil demons. But these spirits must not be confounded with satanic demons. The foregoing, which includes some extracts from Molitor's writings, are sufficient to give the contents of the Kabbalah with regard to magic. So basically, if aliens were to come here, if aliens were to come here and you procreate with them, but the spirit, they're saying that it's demons, but these spirits are not confounded they're not the same as satanic beings. The foregoing, which includes some extracts from Molitor's writings, are sufficient to give the contents of the Kabbalah with regard to magic, which it retreats of in all its ramifications, containing that which became Christian mysticism and the magic of the Middle Ages. Also, it contains much regarding what we now designate animal magnetism. That was chapter 2. Chapter 3 is dreams, visions, and true magic. Dreams, visions, and the true magic. So this is why it's chapter 3. They give you black and white first. For those teaching to do magic, you wouldn't get to this part. Dreams, vision, and the true magic. Visions arise from more than a mere introversion or from groundless appearances. It is generally believed they arise from a direct inward seeing and in a more extended view. You can see inside yourself and you have an extended view, an activity of the fancy and the independent of the outer senses. So it's within yourself. It's not without yourself. You have an extended view of within yourself and the activity of you're basically aware of your senses. The difference between a seer and a poet who often manually exchanges characters is this: that the poet not only sees and understands that which is before him, but that carried away he enters fully into that which is before him and creates harmonious forms. This occurs at will with the recollection of his mind. No true poet is wanting in this power of the seer, which is created in him as a gift from heaven and cannot be gained by artificial means. What this is telling you, you can't. So if you are going to read a spell from a book, it's not going to work as the person who made the spell, because it just told us that not everybody has the exact same magnetic forces within them. We all have different ones based on like how we're created, what we eat, and all these things, and what we do with our bodies. So magnetic forces. What this is telling you. So the poet is the person who casts the spell. It's the one who has actually been able. The difference between the seer, the person who's watching and reading, and the poet is the poet is this: that the poet not only sees and understands that which is before him, but that carried away he enters fully into which is before him. He enters into the past and creates harmonious forms. This occurs at will from the recollection of his mind. The harmonious forms are the spells. This occurs at will from the recollection of his mind. No true poet is wanting in this power of the seer, so they're not going to write them down, which is created in him as a gift from heaven and cannot be gained by artificial means. One can clearly see what is meant by the saying that poets, true artists, must be born such. The inner creative power must not put forward those shadows which lie in the memory of imagination freely and without design or forethought. They must unfold, grow, expand, contract, so that from being mere undefined shapes, they become truthful and well-defined pictures. So it's like when you're trying to imagine what you're trying to affect, you grow and expand your mind so that it can actually go from being these little crazy whatever images you can make into you giving yourself a photographic memory so that you can picture, you can design, so that from being mere undefined shapes, they become truthful and well-defined pictures. So it has to be truthful. It has to represent exactly what you're trying to affect. The higher the genius, the more mature is the idea in the first instance. And what did we say before? Just because no one is more intelligent, they just made themselves more intelligible. So you have an entire intelligence quotient. You can make yourself more intelligible by growing and expanding your mind, and making sure that you are actually the higher the genius, so that you can become higher. The more nature is the idea in the first instance. In drawings by Raphael and Michelangelo, the idea is at once clearly and firmly shown. In the infancy of the world, no difficulty was felt in explaining these most remarkable of all phenomena of human existence. The Oriental nations ascribed them to celestial spirits, and the Jews to angels and demons, the Oriental nations ascribed them to celestial spirits, the Jews to angels and devils, who lived in social intercourse with men, divided according to the certain gradations of the soul, provided with various good and evil powers. The Egyptians entertained a similar belief, and the Greeks and Romans supposed them to demons, or even in occasional instances, their gods. According to Democritus, visions and dreams are passing shapes, ideal forms which precede form. Love you, Neil, more. That which precede form. It's okay, you go. According to Democritus, visions and dreams are passing shapes, ideal forms which proceed from other beings, so that even in sleep the soul has an equal activity as in the waking state. Your soul is just awake as when you're asleep as when you're awake, but with this difference that in the latter, only the usual and everyday shapes appear, whilst in the former, those alone are visible which a soul is capable of observing, and for which it is in a state of expectation. Heraclitus entertained a very similar theory. According to him, the activity of the senses arises from the participation in the surrounding celestial ether. So the universe, by working in tandem with the universe. And he entertained a similar theory. According to him, the activity of the senses arises from a participation in the surrounding celestial ether. The difference between sleeping and waking, he says, is that in the latter, waking, the divine portion is drawn in, and not only by the act of respiration, but also by the organs of sight and smell, while on the contrary, sleep, the communication with the celestial ether is confined to respiration alone. When you're sleeping, your respiration is what you use to communicate with the ether. But that this only a dim light which illuminates man by night and causes him to see things in dreams. In death alone is this light entirely quenched. So you don't dream in death, is what it's saying. From these intimations, we may direct attention to the visions of Moses, his power of transferring the light of prophecy to others as a magnetic rapport, the kind of sacrifices, blessings with water, oil, and blood, and by the laying on the hands, as well as the remarkable commands against the participation in sorcery, false prophecy, exorcism, and questioning of the dead. So as it was saying, for these intimations, we may direct attention to the visions of Moses. We see in Moses the inward psychological contest of fear and hope. He contested fear and hope. So fear was used to try and attack him. He contested that. Hope of reliance, and lastly of enthusiasm, which overcomes all worldly obstacles. So if you can contest fear and hope, because when they give you hope, that's meaning that you're not going to search for the truth. They've given you hope, so you're gonna hope and you're not gonna do. So if you have contested fear, hope, reliance, and lastly, enthusiasm, which overcomes all worldly obstacles, he was provided. So he just did his thing. He just went and did his thing. You're able to overcome all worldly obstacles. He was provided with the superhuman powers to command the elements and to give evidence of the power and glory of God by miracles. Let us turn again to the history of the people of Israel and to the early Oriental nations and compare the magic among them with that of later ages. We find many and striking experiences. In the first place, as I have already remarked, the Israelites stood alone among all the surrounding pagan nations, and magic among them and had a peculiar form. So Israelites stood against all of it. For although the Jews had spent so long a time in Egypt, they carried with them but little of its magic. That is, the real theurgic, magical arts which are perfected by natural powers and human inventions. The magical ecstasies and miracles were rather inspirations of divine power, and the influence of the black art producing supernatural effects by natural means was forbidden under the severest penalties. So they tried to remove all of how people were using magic. The object of life is to the magician his inward contemplation. The true prophet lives in faith and not in visions. The object of life is to the magician his inward contemplation. The true prophet lives in faith, not in visions. So not hope, you live in faith. Historians and philosophers of modern times have regarded the ecstatic phenomena of Israelitish prophets, and especially of the apostles, as identical with magnetic clairvoyance. The prophets regarded not individuality, but the fate of nations and universal elements. Therefore, they are able to perform supernatural and superhuman actions, strengthened by all powerful influence of their will and faith, as well upon their own bodies as upon others, and over all outward nature and its temporal and local boundaries. Sudden conversions and changes of belief, immediate cures of difficult and tedious complaints, warnings of threatening dangers, and assistance to those requiring it at a distance, comfort and strength in trial and suffering are proofs of his divine higher power. The happiness of peace and the glory of paradise are only revealed by the divine word. To participate in this, the human mind must acquire two virtues: humility and obedience of the law, superhuman hope of reaching the goal. Humility and obedience of the law, and superhuman hope of reaching the goal beyond earthly existence. So you have hope where you don't do anything, and then he explained it again, and superhuman hope. So there's undivine hope, and then there's divine hope. And if you can free yourself from this hope of what you think of what is hope, and actually replace it with humility and superhuman hope of reaching the goal beyond earthly existence. So it's not hope in any intangible whatever other thing. You need superhuman hope in one thing, of reaching the goal beyond earthly existence. As long as we have that, you need that. So to participate in the happiness and peace and the glory of paradise only revealed by the divine, you need to have humility and superhuman hope of reaching that place. If, however, man gains through his reconciliation and return to God, if man gains through his reconciliation and return to God, and this his truly Christian life, the powers which our Savior promised to all his followers, namely, to handle serpents, heal the sick, cast out devils. So Jesus did, like he said, he did give you the command. He gave you the command to handle serpents. I have a snake. He let you heal the sick, and he let you cast out devils. And this in the same degree in which the Savior did it himself. And if such a true Christian really does greater wonders than man in his usual life of the senses is capable of performing, as we have seen in the apostles and the saints of all ages, we must regard that man as human. Saints of all ages, let me read that again. And if such, a true Christian really does greater wonders than man in his usual life of the senses is capable of performing, as we have seen in the apostles and the saints of all ages, we must regard that man as human. Man as human. We must regard that man. We must regard that man as human. He misses a lot of punctuation in here. And he, when you read this book, you realize there's sentences that they're not capitalized, there's some missing punctuation. It's an old book. I have already spoken at length of the Christian manner of healing the sick, and I again reverted to so I'm actually reading from the original book. Like it's actually the original scanned book. Like it's scanned. It's real. We're reading from the pages. There's actual pictures and everything from here for the people that are new here. So, I have already spoken at length of the Christian manner of healing the sick, and I again reverted to the fact that the actions of Christ and his apostles bear peculiarly on our subject. They did not use secret medicines or miraculous essences, but the power was in them themselves. That's what it says. They did not use secret medicines or miraculous essences, but the power was in them themselves, and they cast out devils, raised the dead, healed the sick and the lame. What did Jesus say? The power is within you and around you. It's within you and around you. The access to the temple is within you. Again, but the power was in themselves, and they cast out devils, raised the dead, healed the sick and lame. So all those people during the witch trials, the Salem witch trials, these people were probably doing the exact same thing. They knew what Christ said. There were still texts that weren't completely destroyed, and they were doing what he said, and they called them witches and necromancers and did this to them. They cast out, it says in past tense, the power was in themselves. They cast out devils, raised the dead, healed the sick and lame through the divine aid and laying on hands, and caused the blind to see and dumb to speak. To prove this, though without any intention of calling them purely magnetic actions, but regarding them as divinely human miracles, I shall mention several cures of Christ and his apostles as they are revealed by the evangelists and in the Acts. And this is in parentheses, and this is Matthew 9:2 and Mark 2:3. And behold, they brought to him a man sick of the palsy, laying on a bed. And Jesus, seeing their faith, said unto the sick of the palsy, Son, be of good cheer, thy sins be forgiven thee. A woman who had suffered, and people, when you read it, you read it in a sense of like, be of good cheer, thy sins be forgiven thee. That's not how he said it. He's like, Jesus, seeing their faith, just seeing that they had faith in him, he realized, okay, I have to do this. He's seeing their faith, said unto the sick of the palsy, Son, be of good cheer, thy sins be forgiven thee. It wasn't like, he knew what he was doing. He was giving it in a way, but Jesus, seeing their faith, saying unto the sick of the palsy, Son, be of cheer. And that's also, so the Bible, so they wouldn't give you more detail than this, because what is more detail than this? You're not going to get more detail than this. That's because you're going to get what Jesus said. You're going to see what he saw and what he did about it. You're not going to get all the interactions between the people, what they did, how he said it, all those, because that's gossip. Gossip is the same as murder. So they're not going to gossip while putting these things in here if his disciples were truly recording the right things. A woman who had suffered from an issue of blood from 12 years touched the hem of his garment. For said she within herself, if I may but touch his garment, I shall be whole. For that person who wanted I just want to touch him. I just want to touch him. Maybe it'll do something for me. But Jesus turned him about, and when he saw her, and he said, Daughter, be of good comfort. Thy faith hath made thee whole. The man with the withered hand was healed through the words, stretch forth thine hand. Or he said, stretch forth thine hand. And the person stretched it forth, and it was restored whole like it as the other. The lunatic who fell into the fire and the water could not be healed by his disciples, The lunatic who fell into the fire, the people who are like in the chats who fall to Satan, the lunatic who fell into the fire, and the water could not be healed by his disciples. But when Jesus rebuked the devil, he departed out of him, and the child was cured from that very hour. Jesus, speaking to his disciples and giving the reason for their inability to cast out the devil, said, because of your unbelief. For I say unto you, if ye have faith as a grain of mustard seed, ye shall unto this mountain, remove hence to yonder place, it shall remove, and nothing shall be impossible unto you. Howbeit this kind goeth not out by the prayer and fasting. He's trying to tell you, he's telling you. He's giving you the instruction. He's not trying to just do it for you. He's telling you it's within you. You remove hence to yonder place. Remove your inability to yonder place. It shall remove, and nothing shall be impossible unto you. Howbeit this kind goeth not out but prayer and fasting. You only go. He's saying, how do you only go by prayer and fasting? And the blind and the lame came unto him in the temple, and he healed them. Now, when the sun was setting, all that they had and sick with the diverse diseases brought them unto him. So now when the sun was setting, all that they had, any sick with diverse diseases, brought them unto him. And he laid his hands on every one of them and healed them. And behold, there was a woman which had a spirit of infirmity 18 years, and was bowed together, and could in no wise lift herself up. And when Jesus saw her, he called her to him, and said unto her, Woman, thou art loosed from thine infirmity. And he set his hands on her, and immediately she was made straight, and glorified God. The man who had infirmity 30 years, who no one carried into the water of the pool, Bethesda, said, healed by the words, Rise, take up thy bed, and walk. And still more remarkable man. So just telling him, rise, get out of your bed and walk. The person was able to rise. In a still more remarkable manner, St. Mark relates the cure of the blind man by Christ. And he cometh to Bethesda, and they bring a blind man unto him, and besought him to touch him. And he took the blind man by the hand, and led him out of the town, led him away from everyone. And when he had his spit upon his eyes, and put his hands upon them, he asked if he saw aught. And he looked upon and said, I see men as trees walking. After that, he put his hands upon his eyes and made him look up, and he was restored, and saw every man clearly. Of the same description so he's fixing him. He goes, can you see aught? And he's like, I see them as trees. And so he put his hands upon him again and made him look up, and he was restored. And so God was like, or Jesus was doing an air code. He's like, did that work? And he's like, I still see it. I see, but it's funny. And he's like, all right, try it again. Executed the command. It worked. And he was restored, and saw every man clearly. Of the same description are the miracles, because it said before he was blind, he didn't see anything, but then he saw them as trees, and then he actually saw them clearly after the second touch. Of the same description are the miracles of St. Paul, who powerful in spirit and action deserves here also our admiration. And there sat a certain man at Lystra, impotent in his feet, being a cripple from his mother's womb, who had never walked. The name heard Paul speak, who steadfastly beholding him, and perceiving that he had faith to be healed, said in a loud voice, Stand upright on thy feet. And he leaped and walked. Healing in the biblical sense it's because he truly believed he couldn't walk. And so he told him, you can walk, get up, walk. And so people attributed that to what they didn't understand. As I was explaining before in this book, he's giving you the power of magnetism and telling you how to use it. And then these people who don't understand this, that don't understand the inner workings of magnetism, lead it and attribute it to miracles because they don't understand. So they think that he was performing miracles. No, he was actually telling you, you can do this too. This is how you do. This is what you do. And he was doing it through. He was showing them through action. However, when they're telling you, they're not giving you all the detail of what he was doing in his actions and the confusion and what was clearing the confusion. There's still more details to be had, and I feel like that is where there's so much that's misconstrued because the people who wrote these books also didn't understand. Healing in the biblical sense deserves in many respects some attention, and we find it not only something magical, but because the biblical healings are often looked upon as only true ones. The principles of this matter of cure are described in the following manners in various sentences and teachings of the Bible. In Moses, we find it as follows: "But if ye will not hearken unto me, and will not do all these commandments, and if ye shall despise my statuses, or my statutes, or if your soul abhor my judgments, so that ye will not do all my commandments, but that ye break my commandments, I will also do this unto you. I will appoint over you terror, consumption, and the burning ague that shall consume the eyes and cause sorrow of heart." Jesus, the son of Sirach, says, "My son, in thy sickness be not negligent, but pray unto the Lord, and he will make thee whole." Jesus told you how to pray, so you pray to the Lord correctly. Don't just pray how you read the book of Matthew, learn how, he gives you clear instructions how to pray. "Leave off from thy sin, and order thine hands aright, and cleanse thy heart from all wickedness. Then give place to the physician, for the Lord hath created him. Let him not go from thee, for thou hast need of him. Fools, because of their transgressions and because of their iniquities, are afflicted. He sent his word and healed them and delivered them from their destructions. There are also other and higher methods of healing than the usual ones, and pious man can cure as well as physicians. The believing physician says Macarius is divine, but medicines belong to the heathen and unbelievers." Medicines belong to the heathen and unbelievers. And as we read in the beginning of this chapter, the true people, the true healers, the people who follow Jesus' teachings didn't need medicines or any of that. They had the power within themselves to touch or heal the sick, raise the dead, all those things. And the New Testament, in all cases, sin is regarded as the cause of all diseases. Jesus spoke to man with the palsy when he healed them. "Thy sins are forgiven thee." And when he made whole the sick man at the pool of Bethesda and afterwards found him in the temple, he said, "Behold, thou art made whole, sin no more, he said, "Behold, thou art made whole, sin no more, lest the worst thing come unto thee." If you are whole, unless you do something else, unless something worse come unto thee. The apostles and all the saints also strive to make men first morally whole, for true and perfect health of soul and body is only regained with the return to God. True perfect health of soul and body is only regained with the return to God. As soon as the soul is perfectly sound, we are told this health of soul will also spread over the body, or the sufferings of the body will no longer be of the nature of disease. They will not affect the heavenwards raised soul. If, however, man is incapable of such a self-cure, he must apply to the physician. And he hath given men skill that he might be honored in his marvelous works. So physicians aren't godly divine people that were, no, they're still doing a front end bypass of this world, of this material manifestation to make it work in another way. It's called a Western approach. However, the analogies in this phenomena are prophecy as well as in manipulation. As for instance, laying on the hands and the mutual rapport of communion and faith are to be denied just as little, which might severe to recommend magnetism, as they are to be accepted literally. Christ lived and worked in nature, also as a man by ordinary natural agents. He had flesh and blood from his fathers Abraham and David's seed, and was born of a virgin in the city of Bethlehem. His existence until he appeared as an announcer of the word of God passed so calmly, according to the usual course of nature, that nothing extraordinary is known. So I'm going to read that again because I know I had a lot of hiccups, because I was trying to also understand while reading. Christ lived and worked in nature, also as a man by ordinary natural agents, his flesh is blood, from his fathers Abraham's and David's seed, and was born of a virgin in the city of Bethlehem. His existence until he appeared as the announcer of the word of God passed so calmly, according to the usual course of nature. Okay.
No, it's for you, right?
No, it's not being. Hey, Christian said, "No, it's for you," right? Talking about the helicopter. if the conclusion, so let me read. So he appeared as the announcer of the word of God, and he passed so calmly, according to the unusual course of nature, that nothing extraordinary is known. So he made sure that he passed through this place and made sure that nothing extraordinary was known. His communications with other men, eating and drinking, the occurrences of his life, even the life and death happened in the usual manner. So he didn't appear himself until it was time. He lived as a carpenter. He did everything he needed to do until it was time. That there is a universal connection in nature and a mutual reciprocity and sympathetical and antithetical contrast, but which cannot be perceived by the waking senses. So that it is, at all events, a something of which the senses do not give direct evidence. That the living soul not only stands in sympathetic connection with the body, but also with the principles of nature between which exist the invisible threads of attraction, limits of which no mathematics can define. I'll read that again. The living soul. Lo siento. Está bien. You go. I'll read it again. That the living soul not only stands in sympathetic connection with the body, but also with the principles of nature between which exist the invisible threads of attraction and limits of which no mathematics can define. So it means there's no mathematics can define everything. There's limits of which no mathematics can define. So between which exist the invisible threads of attraction, limits of which no mathematics can define. So mathematics in this sense, because mathematics is a building block to all science, but I know the way mathematics, when it was back then, it's just very interesting, and nowhere yet has it explained to you that everything is numbers. This is all sacred geometry. It takes numbers, and the way we perceive the numbers is we made a universal language where we wrote down 1, 2, 3. And that's one thing these people that wrote these books, they're not saying this. There is mathematics, and it's a building blocks to all science. That a spiritual communion exists between man, and therefore also between man and superior beings, is not to be denied. For in all history, such a communion is not only suspected but dimly felt, and even spoke of in a subjective assertion. Sorry, gosh, dang. Let me read that again. For in all history, such a communion is not only suspected, but dimly felt, and even spoken of in subject assertion. So a spiritual communion exists between man and man. So it exists between a man, and therefore also between man and superior beings is not to be denied. For in all history, such a communion is not only suspected, but dimly felt. It's dimly felt and even spoken of in subject assertion. So it's more asserted than it is felt. True magic lies in the most secret and inmost powers of the mind. Our spiritual nature is still, as it were, barred within us. All spiritual wonders in the end become but wonders of our own minds. In magnetism lies the key to unlock the future science of magic, to fertilize the growing germs in cultivated fields of knowledge and reveal the wonders of the creative mind. And there's another picture. All right, so chapter 4. So before chapter 4, at the end of chapter 3, it has in quotations and it's italicized, and it says, "It is open to all who will not set their minds stubbornly against new ideas. Those who are stubborn cannot be blamed. Their minds in their present condition cannot at once be changed to new ideas." So their minds in their present condition. So if there's people that's trying to combat you, they're not to be blamed. Their minds in their present condition cannot at once be changed to new ideas. So in their present condition doesn't mean that it's their permanent condition. Chapter 4, Secrets of Egyptian Magi. The Secrets of Egyptian Magi. Let me go use the restroom, and I will be right back, you guys. Breakfast? You? Gracias. Yeah, I love you, mi amor. Right. Chapter 4. We've got through already more than 10% of this book. Secrets of the Egyptian Magi. Ask and thou shalt receive. Man embraces all things like the ocean and is higher than the universe. Whatever world he strives after is given him, for he is capable of gaining anything after which he strives earnestly, by true humility and unity of spirit, which occurs during the time when the senses are overcome and the gates of the body are closed, as well as in perfect death. When the spirit of man raises the light of spirit body to the regions of his longing and his works. We believe that Egyptian priesthood was well acquainted with the phenomena of magnetism and also the methods of its production and the means of application to various diseases, and that for this aim they concealed the greater portion of their religion and their customs from the eyes of the uninitiated. They concealed the greater portion of their workings from the eyes of the uninitiated. So if they didn't initiate them into their group, they didn't share any of the information. Of no one nation of antiquity do we possess so much knowledge. As it was saying before, great sages, like the sages and rulers, would only give the knowledge to their kids and they keep it from everyone else because they would hope their kids would do the right thing from it because not everybody could know the information. Well, same thing, the Egyptians, they concealed the greater portion of their religious customs from the eyes of the uninitiated. So that's why probably we have hieroglyphics. Of no one nation of antiquity do we possess so much knowledge concerning the treatment of disease and the temples as of Egypt, where the priest knew how to awaken that inward voice in man, with which he usually is not himself acquainted, and which was regarded as a direct gift of the gods, where the voice was so universally used for the cure of diseases and for other purposes of life, but where at the same time the process was veiled from the eyes of the ignorant with the wise intention of preserving it from the low and evil use. According to this, man created after the image of God led originally a paradisiacal life at peace with himself. He lived in harmony with the whole of nature, in perfect clairvoyance, the inward, his deep mental state being dominant over the outward world of the senses. They imparted their secret and divine sciences to no one who did not belong to their castle. Or to their, I think it says case, but I think he meant castle. And it was, or maybe it is case, it's CASCE. They imparted their secret, kept it separate. Their secret and divine, they separated it, imparted it. They imparted their secret, divine sciences to no one who did not belong to their case. It was not long impossible for foreigners to learn anything. It was only in later times that a few strangers were permitted to enter the initiation after many severe preparations and trials. According to Iamblichus, Pythagoras spent 22 years in Egypt learning the sacred sciences and customs. In this manner, several more were gradually admitted and their secrets more or less revealed, but so mixed with Grecian fables that the truth was almost wholly lost. The highest healing power, which acts not through palpable means, but by the aid of the will, was practiced by the priests of the highest rank. They were soothsayers and sages, and they knew how to produce many supernatural effects. Their mode of life was strict, and their first law purity. By day and by night, they were obliged to wash twice. Their garments were of cotton or linen. So this is why, if you're going to make yourself holy, if you're going to make yourself pure, if you're going to make yourself able, listen to this. By day and by night, they were obliged to wash twice. Their garments were of cotton or linen, so you do not wash twice. They were, wait, hold on, let me, 1 second. They were obligated to, they're obligated to wash twice, not to not. They're obligated to wash twice. So by day and by night, they were obligated to wash twice. Their garments were of cotton or linen, and their shoes were made from the papyrus. Their food consisted principally of vegetables, but also occasionally of flesh, but which was first inspected by properly authorized persons, and being found healthy and sound, was marked by a peculiar seal. I'm assuming something similar to how the Jewish did kosher. For they knew that eruptions, various diseases of the eyes, and other ailments arise from bad food. Pork they only ate once a month at full moon. Fish, particularly sea fish, were also forbidden to them. Among vegetable productions, they refused shell fruit and onions. No shell fruit or onions. The first, from the fact that Plutarch believed they contain too much nourishment and endure the digestion. The latter, because they excite thirst. The priests possessed no small knowledge of physic. Their procedure was certainly very simple and confined itself to general rules. They were not acquainted with the enormous number of fluids, gases, mineral poisons, salts, earthly and vegetable poisons which are known to us, and probably were no worse off than we, with whole sacks, barrels, and measures full of remedies. Their medical substances were, according to Isocrates, very simple, and there was no danger in their use, for they could be taken as food. Strabo also says in his account of Moses that it is easy to receive prophetic dreams from the divinity in the temple after a virtuous and righteous mode of life, while persons of the opposite character hope for them in vain. While persons of the opposite character hope for them in vain. So, Strabo also says in his account of Moses that it is easy to receive prophetic dreams from the divinity in the temple after a virtuous and righteous mode of life, while persons of the opposite character hope for them in vain. When you worship a statue, what is vain? Like when you worry about what you look like or what others look like, the aesthetic, the vanity. Others, the opposite character, hope for them in vain. Concerning that which passed within the temples and of the manner in which the sick were treated, we have but fragmentary accounts. For as to the uninitiated, the entrance was forbidden, and the initiated kept their vows. Even the Greeks, who were admitted to the temples, have been silent concerning their secrets, and have only here and there betrayed portions. Jablonski says that but few chosen priests were admitted into the sanctum, and that admission was sacredly ever permitted to strangers, even under the severest regulations. When, however, we collect all traces which remain from various sources concerning the Egyptians, we gain the certain conviction that the treatment of the sick and the phenomena of the oracles were exactly similar to our magnetic somnambulism. We have somnambulism is that mode when you're in between sleeping and waking, that brain shift in between sleeping and waking. That's what it's called. Talk about somnambulism. We have, however, that's what it's called. We have, however, historical evidence of the preparation of the sick. Secondly, of the temple sleep and the appearances connected with it. And thirdly, the treatment of the sick. So I'll read this again. We have, however, historical evidence of the preparation of the sick. Secondly, of the temple sheep and the appearances connected with it, and thirdly, of the treatment of the sick, partly in direct account, partly in direct memorials and pictures and hieroglyphics. The preparation by fasting, bathing, purification, anointing, and friction, by prayers and songs and praise of the God, the sacred ceremonies in darkness, occasionally musical tones, The impressive sacrifices were calculated much to produce a harmonic state of the body, to calm its excitability and to incline the mind of the expectation in veneration. I have to do my own reflection on this one because I just think I think I know exactly what it means, but before I give my interpretation, I have to read it again. The preparation by fasting, bathing, purification, anointing, and friction by prayers and songs and praise of the God, the sacred ceremonies and darkness, occasionally musical tone, which is not the God we're talking about. The Egyptians had their own gods. So preparation by fasting, bathing, purification, anointing, and friction by prayers and songs and praise of the gods, the sacred ceremonies and darkness, occasionally musical tones, the impressive sacrifices were calculated as much to produce a harmonic state of the body to calm its excitability. So I guess they needed to watch someone to calm the state of the body as to incline the mind to expectation and veneration. But for it to actually work that way, you need to be perceiving sacrifice in the correct way. It wouldn't work if it excited you. If you truly wanted to happen, or if you were truly hurt by it, or if you were truly bound to like the fear, the hope, and all these things that it was saying that bound you to this earthly place, you wouldn't be able to. You wouldn't be able to calm yourself, and that sacrifice. So the sacrifice doesn't work. As in to the incline the mind, the expectation, and veneration. Okay, as in the interior of the temples, there were not alone bare walls, but magnificent paintings and decorations, baths, gardens, walks of water. Sorry, I was showing people that were in here earlier. Like I've seen all of Italy, everything. I've seen everything. I've been to Venice, Rome, Capri, Berlanga, Rome. I've been to Verona. I've seen everything. Like I swear, I literally, that was one of the things I did when I was in my early 20s to just find out about everything. I showed everybody pictures of like inside the Vatican earlier and everything that I took. And I showed my face because I'm in a lot of them. However, I also have my passport showing Fiumicino. Mi wallet? Wallet? Adi? So, and I will go back and show the pictures again. That's Rome, Fiumicino, and that's Copenhagen. That's for another story. And also, I have seen other things like Stonehenge, Gatwick, that's London. So, the reason why I thought of because it talks about the magnificent paintings and decorations on the wall in the baths and gardens. Because I've been to Pompeii and the ruins, and in those ruins and like the ruins I'm going to show you, they're just like this. They're and Italy's not far from Egypt. Why? Log me on Facebook. Okay. Photos. So it's going to take me a while to get, because I've documented my entire younger life. If you're looking and you're like younger, I mean, I'm not like that young. I'm not in my 20s. Okay. Low. All right, here we go. We're going down. Gracias, mi amor. Un minuto. And like the reason, like I'll get into that later. I'll probably save that story for another time. I don't want to make anybody feel some type of way. But I also relate to like a lot to some of the stories in the Bible, like Mary Magdalene. Like there's a lot of her story that I just like have similar occurrences, and so that's how I know you can find healing. All right, down. Come on. So when I get to these pictures in Italy, you're gonna see great things, like just things you probably didn't even know about. And I've been to catacombs in Monte Cassino. All right, here we go. Down. We're almost there. No. So just as I'm teaching you guys this, I've always been a teacher. So this is me. Oh shit, I've always been a teacher. This is just always what I've done. I love to teach. This is just what I do. And I just love doing it. And so anyway. Wait, hold on. Oh yeah, Bina 48, the first humanoid robot in 2013. I was telling you guys about this before. If you look up this robot, this was I know the person who created Sirius Radio and Martine Rothblatt, like her daughter Genesis. Genesis. That's one picture of Italy. Hold on, I'll show you because like I'm friends with her daughter. We're just not like close anymore. That was Paris because I've also been to Paris. I've seen the Louvre. I've seen so much in my little young life, and I'm ready to share it with people. I mean, and of course it did like send me down like a weird animated path at one time. Oh yeah, Walt Disney's brain. Alcor. They don't look like that now, but this was like 12, 13 years ago. Here's the Vatican. This is like inside of it. Hold on. I still have so much more to go through in here. So hold on. I want to show you that it was me that was there. See, this is in Pompeii. Let's show you a room right here. See, it said the walls were not bare. You see how the walls are bare on the side? It's telling you the walls that you're seeing now were not bare. They were actually had paintings. And I'm so glad I have just been places to actually just record this to take now. This is in Pompeii. This is in the ruins. This was like the bodies. Some of them were not in cases. And like it was just, it's just very in ruins. Like it's completely in ruins. This were the catacombs. This is exiting them. I couldn't take pictures of showing. I did actually show a picture of a gate, but on showing this earlier, I noticed I can't find the gate. This is going up this is Mount Vesuvius. And then let's see. Yeah. So, oh yeah, Genesis. So this is Martine's daughter, Genesis. If you look up Genesis Rothblatt, United Therapeutics, Sirius Radio, any of that stuff, Ray Kurzweil, Google, the people who started Google Alphabet, what's his name? What's his fucking name? Oh, it's so easy. I can't remember his name. But yeah, all those people. Linda Chamberlain from Alcor. I showed you Alcor. Let's go back to it. Well, I've seen the statue of David, Samson, Goliath, just everything. This is Verona. This is a Colosseum in Verona. I actually went in the Colosseum. I took these pictures and I even took close-up pictures because I always wanted to just be able to like remember the detail of the ruins. Like it was just so eroded, the stone. Um, there's just so much here. Like I'm shaking because I just feel so much energy. Like I can tell that this wasn't by accident. Um, where's Monte Cassino? Here's Monte Cassino right here. This is where the catacombs were. I have a picture right here smoking a cigarette actually. It's right here. I was in Monte Cassino. I went into the catacombs. I've seen them. A lot of people don't know about them and what's in there. I've been to the Blue Grotto and Sperlonga and Capri. Like I've crossed all over Italy. I had to make sure I saw everything. This was in the airport. Welcome to Rome. And this is like, well anyway, that's not important. But I just wanted to prove the things that like to you that like I know these people. Trying to see if I can. There's a cross, the cross wall. My ex-husband had a cross wall. See, like I saw the bubonic church and everything. Like I've been to San Francisco. I saw all that stuff. There's still more. There's still more. I know. Oh my God, there's still just some crazy shit that I went through as a child. But I also was just around so much information and I recorded it. This is it. There's more than this, but this is like one of them. One of the cross walls. There's every cross is from a different country, and this is like my ex's collection. And that's his altar, but just very religious person. And this is Genesis's the person that the black girl that I was just showing you with. This is her dad, but that's Martine. That was the one that created Sirius Radio. She's very under the radar, but reprised AI. And as I was showing you, that robot, the AI robot, Bina 48, I mean, this is for Genesis's 30th birthday. If you were to look up her age and see how old she is now, I mean, that's how long I've known her. So, like I know the people who pioneered so much information, so that's how I can confirm what I know to be like what I know and then what's changed and all this stuff. Your live is not eligible for recommendation and restriction in search results because it contains unoriginal or reproduced content. Oh yeah, because it was my Facebook. Or probably the front of the magazine or something, I don't know. But yeah. Right? But like that's what's crazy. Our country and what's wrong with it, and like right now, what we don't know about it isn't just controlled by us. You need to understand, we were populated by a certain nation, and we weren't told the truth about who of where we were populated from. We all could actually be descendants of, well, we all descend from Adam and Eve. So just that tells you we're all related. And anyway. Oh, Sugar's here. Sugar Savage. Come on up, boo. I'm sorry. I was reading. I was talking. If you're still here, I'm sorry. Melissa, you can come up. If you're still here, I'm sorry. TheHolyWord.net. There's a the in the beginning. Hey,
What?
No, nothing. You requested up.
Oh, did it go? Did it actually connect?
If you can want to request back up, you can. Does anybody want to request up and talk or anything? I'm sorry, I didn't. I wasn't looking at the requests. Evan, you've been messaging me stuff. Here, you come up here, so I can at least like introduce myself to you, or you, vice versa. Oh, I know, and I've been to the Vatican. That's what I was trying to show you. I've literally been there. I'm ready to go back and find what we need to find. Does that make sense? You're very welcome. Yes, I've gotten lots of sleep. Like that's the thing. I know it seems like I'm doing a lot, and like I might be, but I'm capable of it and sleep, and so good. Okay, gracias mi amor. Would be great to have those online. Oh, I know. That's what I'm working on doing. That is what. Oh, I thought that was Brendan. That's what I'm working on doing. Give me a second. Had to brush my teeth. Realized I didn't do that this morning. Sorry. I also need my lip stuff because it's dry as hell here. Papito! Where the hell is it? Sorry. Oh, I know. Donde is tired. It's good? So good? Okay. Does anybody else want to come up here? Maverick, you want to come back up here? Brennan? Somebody? Paige is here. Paige. I have to talk to you. Hello. Sorry. I'm trying to. How are you?
Sorry, I'm doing good. I'm on lunch. I'm on my lunch break.
Okay. I know you were sending me messages yesterday and you were worried about my well being or something to that effect, correct?
Yeah, like I didn't want to upset you, and I was explaining what happened yesterday,
Yeah.
like I was talking to that girl. It wasn't like I was agreeing with you, You know what I'm
Right.
saying?
And I am so sorry for my misunderstanding. I'm such in a defense mode to protect the people who are attacking the movement, and it's really hard sometimes, especially in written words, when
Mhm.
I'm reading messages so fast. Like I have over 600 unread messages in my inbox. I have a whole bunch of like stuff going on in my notifications. So when I'm like trying to read through things, sometimes I read too fast and I don't get the message. And so I try to clarify and put out the right meaning. And sometimes if I don't understand it, I screw it up, and I'm so sorry. And that's what happened. And I just couldn't identify who was actually being friendly and who wasn't. And I'm so sorry.
No, you're totally fine. It's okay. I just wanted to. That's why I messaged you privately, so so I could explain what was actually going on.
Thank you. I'm sorry.
Absolutely. No, you're fine. I get it. I get it. There's people coming after you, and I mean, you have to be defensive whenever people are coming after you with things like this, you know?
Thank you for your grace.
Absolutely. I'm gonna jump down though because I'm eating and I don't want to eat while I'm up here.
You're fine. Thank you for allowing me to and accepting my apology.
Absolutely. Keep doing what you're doing. You're doing amazing.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. I'm going to disconnect so you don't have to do it in your evening. Have a good day.
You too.
All right, you guys. So, what I'm about to do, um, um, I'm going to start over because I have a restriction now. Who's God Squad? It just popped up on the screen. I love that name. Hello, whoever you are. I love that name. I'm actually about to start over my life because it's been restricted for like the past 20 minutes since I showed that picture of the, like if you were hearing yourself the magazine front thing. Yeah. Okay. So I'm gonna start over. Hey, JB, this person that's sending all the stuffs. Hey, you, it's J Raby Baby. Thank you for all the roses. Before I end this and sound like I'm like this ungrateful little whatever. Thank you so much. Greetings, fellow human. Thank you, J Raby Baby. I appreciate you. So now I restart. I hope you guys come back. And when you come back, if you would please hit this button and repost and tap on the screen when we start back and all the stuff. I body if you have a secret, add it to it. And I just made a list of prioritize the books of what Joe is promising, and we got them all. And then we got more. And then we got more, and then we got more, and then we got more, and then we came up to 400,000 files. And I was like, okay, let's lock this down because we don't even know what the heck is on here yet. So we gave you have access to Joe Felz books and everything that we've confirmed to be legit and not viruses or like whatever. So yeah, it was public access and with no approval, so anyone could upload anything. Now we've shifted it to a new platform where you need approved. It's bot blocked. You can't yeah. So it'll always keep working because now there's no admins that can be created anymore. There's only one admin account. Well, actually, there's two admin accounts. Actually, there's three admin accounts, but there's no more that can be created. And the three admin accounts is me, my brother, and Sky. Thank the universe, right? Absolutely. You have to have gratitude and just be grateful for the experience. So absolutely good call out. Yes, be grateful and thank the universe. Thank the existing. There's two things that the book was telling us. It was telling us you need two things to inherit the kingdom of God. You need, okay? You need superhuman hope. It's called faith that you're going to make it to the next place. And you also need humility. You need to be able to accept humiliation and accept it and know that what's wrong with you. Like, I know I haven't had my hair cut. I know I didn't brush my teeth. I know I didn't do all the things. So I was doing that a lot. Like I'm trying to show through example. You don't have to be vain and look perfect. You have to be humiliated. You have to have humility, and you have to have the superhuman hope. It's faith that there's something beyond this, that you're gonna make it past the 3D manifestation of this world. So that's what we were reading out of here. There's so much, I can't even summarize everything because it's so much you can't summarize it. And just those last 3 chapters. And so, yeah, so ego, and that's like a kind of like another thing. There's like pride, and then there's like, it's different. There's certain things, there's things that are like different. And so, when you have a pride, you can feel proud of yourself, and it's not necessarily exalted in a toxic way. However, ego can be and is mostly perceived as something that is negative. And so even pride, you can be proud of somebody and just be like, I'm just proud to know them, or but even that in itself, you should be able to know that you're capable of the exact same things. There's nothing to have pride in. The temple is within and through you. You are capable of all things. It went through and said that Jesus gave command of his disciples. He gave them commandment over snakes, demons, and to raise the dead. Okay, so those they weren't practicing miracles, and that's what the book is also explaining, is that people who just don't have a deeper understanding of the laws of magnetism, when they find something that they just don't understand that's profound and it works in a way that they just can't see on a deeper level, they find that to be miraculous when they just don't understand the forces behind it and they think that it's God. And sometimes we're able to do things that you just can't understand, and it's not miraculous, including what Jesus was telling his disciples to do. He's like, here, this is what you do. You can't walk, stand up, you can walk. And the person got up, leaped up and said, you're right, I can walk. It's a constraint of your mind, of course, with the physical ailment, but you yourself can repair the physical ailment by code, by mathematics. The building blocks to everything is math. So the temple is within you. You should never look. So, and it explains how you reach the temple, how to be pure. You can't reach it without being pure. How you be pure, you have to bathe twice a day, like once in the morning, once at night. You have to wear a cloth or linen. You have to have papyrus on your feet. It's these things that the sages in Egypt were using. The priests and the highest priests of Egypt, they didn't know about salt. They were made to not know about anything of the world, so they had a free mind, and so they were able, and they didn't eat any unclean food. They didn't put any toxic garments on their body. They just lived and they were just dedicated to the purity of being pure. They were dedicated to being the embodiment of purity. And so that's how priests were able to, how Egyptians, we're in the chapter 4, the Egyptian magi, like the magic of the Egyptians and how they use it. Because there's Oriental, there's Egyptian, there's Jewish, there's different forms, and they're all used a little bit differently. So yeah, to continue reading, there are many other similar passages in the Bible concerning the importance of the hands and producing visions and ecstasy, as well as the magical influence of the land generally. The laying on the hands of customary and many occasions, and thereby the communication of a certain power was signified, although such power was not tangible or visible. So as it was saying before, it was saying the difference between a seer and a poet is that a poet not only can see and understand, it's that they don't need to actually read. So like, it's basically like in spells. So someone can read a spell, they can recite it, do all the things. It's not going to work for them, because actually a true poet knows that it comes from within. You say what's in you, and with an intent. If someone else writes down their spell of what worked for them, it's not going to work for somebody else, because we all have different attributes to our magnetism that makes our capabilities extend and limit in other areas. And so that's why, but there essentially the Egyptian sages were able to tap into multiple. They were able to tap into and also bestow that upon whoever they wanted to. All that stuff. Exactly. The temple is within you. You don't look for a leader to follow you. Jesus never said, follow me. He told you what to do. If he said, follow me, he wouldn't have left the crowd to go take the blind man out of the town, or else they would have followed. He did it in secrecy. He took the blind man. He said, come follow me. We went out of town, and he's like, I'm not going to show anyone this. I'm going to lay my... He spit on his hands and went over his eyes, and he said, can you see? And he goes, I see humans, but they're walking like trees. And he's like... And he did it again. He did a second touch. And he goes, okay, now. He goes, I can see everything. And he was able to see through every man with his eyes. So God, there was a code that he hadn't done with yet, but he needed to test. So he didn't do it in front of everybody. So when Jesus said, and then he goes and tells you, he's trying to learn it himself and then apply it. And then he goes back and he healed everybody. And he told everybody, come bring them to me and I'll heal everybody. He did it, and he was telling them how to do it. And he told his disciples how to teach everybody else how to do it. He gave them the tools of how to handle snakes without them possessing them, and actually to cast out demons. So I have a snake. That's how I can relate with this, because I understand the spirituality between the snake and the human and the deception. But I also know that you yourself, if the power is within you, you can break it. You can protect yourself from that. You can hold snakes and they're not going to affect you. You can show them love and they can give you love back. Do you want me to show you? I'll go get Olive right now. Yes, go get Olive. All right. Okay, watch. God gave you command over snakes so they can't possess you. That's what it said in this book we just read. Now watch. Come out, boo-boo. Hi. See, she looks away. Oh, you can't even see her head. She looks away from me. What did it say? Animals cannot stare you in the eye because your eyes are different. Man is the most high of all students in this place. And that when you look an animal in the eye, this book tells you they look away. If you can command animals, they will look away. Come out. Come out. Come out. Does she try to attack me? Is she defensive? No. She's moving away from my eyes because that's what I'm doing. I'm making her do that. You can, it's intent. There's magnetism and it's influence. You influence. Well, when you stare at somebody, you can get them to stop looking at you with intent. Hi, boo-boo. And now? Now she's approaching me. Yeah, no, she's so calm. She is the most calm. She knows I love her. She's not head shy. I can just play with her. Usually snakes would be like, bitch, what the fuck are you doing? But she trusts me. You can have command over snakes. God said so. It says so right there in that book. Not the Bible. I'm not saying the Bible. Yeah, the Bible does. But this book right here, Ancient Magic, Magnetism, and Psychic Forces, that Joe is trying to show you. Yeah, you can break that evil connection of spirituality, and the power is within you. It's just within you. This thing has never bitten me, and none of my animals ever have. All of my animals, they need me. And now, and so this thing, whenever I'm in my room, she's always crawling about, and she's trying to come out, and she wants to just, yeah. No, he's all of us. Yeah, you're right. God is you. It's all of you. The temple is within you. See, you can kiss them, and they'll respond to it, and like she just did. So that's an example. Mi amor, Olive, I saw I wake you up, boo boo. I used you as an example, sweetheart, and I'm so sorry I energetically used you in such a way. You want to go back to your home? I put you back in home. Okay. TikTok just restricted me again for dangerous activities. They don't want you to play with snakes. They don't want you to find these things out. They want you to think that you can't do these things, that they're evil. Mama fixes for you, hunking. Mama fix. Here you go. Here you go. Yeah. And that's the thing. When I put her in, that's nothing. She trusts me so much. I don't just drop her in there. I let her crawl off, and she's still held on tightly to my hand, and now she's letting go, and now she's coming off of it. Like she wants to be slowly taken care of. She needs to trust you. They need to trust you. You need to build trust with the animals. God gave us command over the animals. Like it says that. It says it separately in a different text in Genesis, but God gave command of the animals for human command over the animals. You just think that, certain ones you don't have command over. No, you have command over animals. Okay, you guys, again, this restriction crap. Can I restart the live one more freaking time? I'm so sorry. I can't even show you the snake without it, like, it doesn't have a 10-minute timer. The last one stayed up for over 20 minutes. Sometimes, like, if it'll give you, if it's like, sometimes it gives you 10-minute timer, sometimes it doesn't. And then you have to look at the restriction. It says, current live restriction for some audience. Your live current things that some may find uncomfortable has been restricted. Reason, dangerous activity and challenges issued on August 14, 2026 at 11:28. Normally, there'd be a timer next to that, and there isn't one. Okay.